All right, what is this notebook? Pull it all together. Look at the latest information on the 30-year bonds, on the 10-year bonds, and how Trump is impacting Japan. Curious. JS, good morning. Mikey's can't find his. I'm taking Mikey to his boxing, but he can't find his rap. Can't find his rap. He can't find his rap. What are you guys? You're up late, aren't you? Up late? Are you up early? You guys haven't gone to bed, or are you just getting up? What are you guys doing up so late? What are you guys doing up so late? Huh? What are you guys doing up so late? You should be sleeping. JS, what are you up so late? You're up early? You're just laying down, Crypto? You came here to get some sweet nothings from me? Bore you to death? Crypto's like, I can't sleep until I get bored to death by Undoubted, hearing his monotonous voice, completely knock me out. Hear him just ranting on Trump, I can relax now. I got Undoubted, monotonous voice, ranting about the fake fuck Christians, Peter-loving Nazis. You find it? Yeah. Where was it? Where was it? Oh, she was hiding it from you. She was hiding it. She was hiding your rap. You like the Kyle? I do like the Kyle commercial. I already put what? No. My shoes. You forgot your shoes. Hurry up. So yeah, it's good. Yeah, I think I've heard all the fucking age songs I want to hear. I think I want to hear all the fucking age songs. I was running. I'm on my main phone, so because the audio doesn't pick up very good on this phone. On my secondary phone, the audio doesn't pick up good. Make sure this is off. Make sure my headset's off. And I gotta make sure this is on my phone. Why is this not? Oh, it is charging. Oh, I bet it was good. I love Thai food. I love Thai food. I actually made myself, I made myself Indian rice with what is the orange stuff? It's good for you. Dude, my entire family hates fucking Indian rice. I don't understand it, dude. I didn't have any rice. I had to go up and get rice this morning because our rice was out. Saffron. No, it wasn't saffron. It's the other stuff I bought. It's orange, but it isn't saffron. It's I don't know what it is. It's like orange powder. It's not saffron. Yeah, I think Mikey's done with boxing. He said he's lost his passion. I think he's up a weight grade. Turmeric. Thank you. I put turmeric powder in it.
turmeric, and cooked chicken. You know, it was good. Add some egg. I made like a fried rice, onion, deep fried. You know, deep fried the onions. Did the chicken really good, and again, I like it. I actually added butter to it too. Probably that's what they didn't like. I added a chunk of butter into the Indian rice. So it was like buttered and salted with turmeric. So it's all, you know. I love it. Added chicken chunks and everything. But, you know, the Japanese are rice agnostic. I don't know if that's the right term. You think rice agnostic, is that the right term? Rice, or maybe not the right term. What term? Right agnostic. No, they're not right. They're anti. They want only one kind. No, they're rice. They're not agnostic. I'm rice agnostic. They're rice. They're rice. Um, plurist. Thank you. Plurist. They're rice plurist. They just want Japanese rice. Anything other than Japanese rice is, is bad, right? Oh no, it's not Japanese rice. I can't eat it. What's up, King? How you doing? Dude, I love it, dude. I love different kinds of rice, but no, I made it. It was like really tasty. Handed to my son. He's like, "What's this? What kind of rice is this?" I said, "The good kind." They're like, "This isn't Japanese rice." They're racist. They're what would be racist rice eaters. They're racist rice eaters. I figured it out. The Japanese are racist rice eaters. That's what it is. Yeah, when it comes to their rice, they're fucking racist. Oh no, that's Chinese rice. I don't want that. Ugh. That's Thai rice. Ugh. Indian. They're fucking yeah, racist. They're racist. JS, you always said they're a bunch of racist eaters. Right, racist rice. Love me some racist rice. Means you only eat one. Racist rice is the only right. They only want to eat their Japanese rice. They're racist. Racist. Yeah, right. Yeah, but see, a racist to a Japanese means they don't like you, King. You know, they don't like your rice. They don't want no American rice. They just want the Japanese rice. That's all they want is Japanese rice. Anything other than that is not good. I like all kinds of rice. illegally, illegally migrated to my belly. To my belly. It did. Dude, I love. Let's see. Let's pull out in front of this car. Look, they're speeding up. They're gonna be upset. On there. My rice is good. So yeah, Trump is, get ready for. Dude, I was actually surprised that ever since they came up with the bullshit ceasefire. I mean, it was all a bullshit ceasefire. The dated Brent fell from 148 down to like 100, right? Well, fell down 40, and now today it sharply shot up. It's like it's going parabolic. I don't know if you saw that, but dated is the actual delivery of the right of the now we're talking right of the Brent crude. So you're about to see your gas prices, go up tomorrow. Hope you filled up. Did you fill up? You better fill your price. Your gas price is going up today. I'd quickly. I hope you filled up before the weekend, over the weekend. Fill up that tank because it's probably going to go up. 20 cents. This price is $150 a barrel. So, yeah. Look at that. Look at all the rice fields. What's going on with this? My window's fogging up here. All the rice is in there. All this racist rice growing in here. Racist rice. I like that, racist. Japanese are very racist. Racist. Or do we say right? I guess we could say racist. The Japanese are racist. Racist. That's right. It wouldn't be racist. It would be racist. Bunch of racist mofos on there. Here, let me plug in my on there. I got a bunch of racist family members. I bought this bag of Indian rice that I thought they would enjoy, I thought they would enjoy as a little alternative to their Japanese rice, but no. My family's like, my wife is like, why did you buy this Indian rice? Why did you buy? We have our own rice here. Oh man, she went all racist on me, dude. She went racist on me. I like that word, racist. Bunch of racist Japanese. Dude. I know. Got it? What she want?
She wants to just
Know what you're doing? Is she home? What's she doing?
she check it, I found it.
What?
She check, I found it. She check,
For your bandages? Huh?
she check it.
She was looking for your bandages?
I asked where my bandage is to her.
Yeah. And she was replying?
Yeah.
Okay. And you told her you found it. Yeah. Rice is ricing. You don't have it, Crypto. Only JS has it. I'm sorry, Crypto. You just don't have it. Let's see what's going on. Let's see what's going on here. All right, let's see. It's a summation of what's been going on here. If I can get to the bottom here. Which this will play. Maybe it'll play.
Geopolitical architecture is undergoing a phase transition. As of June 2026, the global system is experiencing a synchronized systemic shock engineered through deliberate choke points in information warfare. Here is an analysis of the converging crises through the lenses of game theory, chaos theory, and historical macroeconomic limits. Game theory. The asymmetric Minimax strategy. The conflict in the Middle East has devolved into a stark demonstration of asymmetric game theory. Iran has adopted a Minimax strategy, minimizing their maximum potential loss, while inflicting disproportionate economic damage without triggering a direct, conventional war they cannot win. The Strait of Hormuz Chokepoint. The strait is a 21-mile-wide geographic bottleneck carrying 20% of the world's daily oil and 20% of global liquefied natural gas, LNG. By deploying low-tech assets, mines, drones, and fast-attack small boats, Iran has effectively closed the strait. The United States is forced into a highly unfavorable payoff matrix, spending billions deploying multi-billion-dollar naval carrier groups to intercept cheap drones, while still failing to guarantee the safety of commercial shipping. The Epstein files and information warfare. In game theory, perfect information alters equilibrium. The weaponization of compromat, the Epstein files war, introduces a non-cooperative dynamic to domestic U.S. and allied politics. If hostile state or non-state actors possess blackmail on political, corporate, or financial elites, they can induce strategic paralysis. Key U.S. decision makers are forced to optimize for personal survival rather than national strategic interests. crippling America's ability to project unified geopolitical power. This asymmetry is indeed more economically destructive.
And you have to understand that this is what Trump is leveraging on the GOP. That Trump holds the 3 million files that has all the dirt. I mean, why won't Trump release those files, right? What did he say? He said it out loud. It will hurt my friends, right? Trump admitted that the files that haven't been released are the files that will hurt his billionaire class, right? His billionaires. Another thing that we need to focus on is that the people that Trump is giving power to are the people that are in the files. Like I didn't know. Did you know that the guy who supposedly introduced Melania to Trump, who hung out with Epstein, is an envoy? Is a Trump fucking envoy? The guy that hung out, the former models, the guy who did the modeling, right? That introduced Melania, supposedly he didn't. She was introduced by Epstein to Trump, right? Is a special envoy to the administration. Why? Because he's obviously in the pedophiles, right? Bessent in the pedophiles. Oh, he's out there. The new guy of the Fed in the pedophiles. Everyone, you have to look at his entire administration, right? Yeah, Melania was an escort. Hey, Doofus, what did you want me to talk about last time? You were like, hey, could you talk about this? Remember, you wanted me to break down something? I forget what it was. I've been waiting for you to show up. Been waiting for you. I cut my podcast earlier because you weren't on. But you wanted me to cover something. Melania? What did you want me to cover with Melania? I did a deep dive with Melania and that, the Super El Nino. All right. Okay, we're going to do a little bit of a pivot here. I want you to think about the Super El Nino that's happening. I want you to dork into it. I also want you to tie it to the energy situation in the United States, how it could potentially compound or not compound. You tell me what's going on with the energy happening now at the Hormuz. How will a Super El Nino impact our current situation? We already did this before, but we're basically projecting next 90 days max, next 60 days, the whole deck of cards falls to pieces. What we did was, and this was in a previous discussion, you don't need to go into it, was we looked at the Carter situation, how Carter's, and the squeeze, and we compared the numbers from Carter to Hormuz, and we're literally 60 to 90 days out from total collapse, all right? But I want you to really focus on El Nino, the Super El Nino, and how this could exacerbate things. Go on. Yeah, the Super El Nino is going to exacerbate things, right? In a massive way, I think. Let's find out what the AI is going to say. Yeah, probably.
Early June 2026, climate models from NOAA and the WMO have locked in a rapid transition into a strong or super El Nino. The equatorial Pacific is heating up fast, putting 2026 on track to be one of the warmest years on record, just as the northern hemisphere enters peak summer. When you overlay a super El Nino on top of the Strait of Hormuz shutdown, it acts as a thermodynamic multiplier. The energy crisis stops being just a supply-side math problem and becomes a physical stress test of the infrastructure. Here is how the next 60 to 90 days play out under this specific climate geopolitical collision. The multiplier effect, how El Nino compounds the crisis. The timing of this weather event hits the global supply chain exactly where it is most vulnerable. The next 3 months represent the peak window for cascading failures. 1. The power grid and the heat dome squeeze. A super El Nino virtually guarantees severe, sustained heat waves across the southern United States, Asia, and Europe during July and August. The mechanism, heat, drives a massive inelastic surge in electricity demand for air conditioning and refrigeration. The collision, the U.S. power grid, relies heavily on natural gas peaker plants to handle summer surges. With global LNG markets panicking over the Hormuz closure, domestic natural gas gets pulled into a bidding war between keeping the lights on in places like Texas or exporting to a desperate Europe.
Yep.
When demand outstrips a restricted supply, grid operators are forced into rolling blackouts, load shedding, during the hottest weeks of the year. 2. The Panama Canal secondary choke point. Global shipping is already rerouting around the Middle East, adding weeks to transit times and burning through.
Yeah, let me explain that, right? We may be a massive, but people don't fail to realize is we run energy markets in America, right? We may produce LNG. We're one of the largest producers on the planet, LNG. We also produce light crude, right? Not the heavy or the mid or we create light crude, which can't be processed in Japan, right? They need medium crude. Their facilities are developed for Middle East crude, right? Understand there's 3 kinds of crude. So what's going to happen is that the demand for LNG and other places from all around the world are going to cause, right, producers in America to choose, right? Who's paying the most? This is why we have all these companies making so much money right now, and they're not discounting. They're making billions because they're selling their shit to Japan, to Malaysia, to whoever's right, to New Zealand, Australia. All these countries right now are in a crisis, right? So if you can have people, if someone's willing to pay you more money for your LNG than a U.S. utility, it's going to go there. It's like, I'm sorry, I mean, this is it. They have to look after their shareholders. This is capitalism, right? So a lot of people conflate the fact that we produce so much energy that we're safe. We're not safe because market demand is going to export it, right? It's really important for you to understand that. People don't get that at all.
Fuel. The mechanism El Niño historically causes severe drought in Central America, specifically over the Gatun Lake watershed that feeds the locks of the Panama Canal. The collision. Just as the global supply chain desperately needs the Panama Canal to act as a release valve for diverted shipping, drought-induced draft restrictions limit the number of ships and the tonnage they can carry. The geographic backup plan physically dries up. 3. The agricultural double tap. Shutting down Middle Eastern natural gas cripples global urea fertilizer production. The mechanism, El Niño, alters global precipitation, historically triggering severe droughts in key agricultural hubs like Australia, Indonesia, and parts of the Americas, while flooding others. The collision, global agriculture is hit with 2 catastrophic shocks simultaneously: a massive spike in fertilizer costs combined with heat stress causing widespread crop failure. The 60 to 90-day window is when commodities markets realize the autumn harvest will be devastated, triggering preemptive food hoarding and price spikes. The one saving grace, how it doesn't compound. There is exactly one geographic advantage the United States gains from an El Niño pattern during an energy crisis: the Atlantic wind shear shield. During an El Niño, the Pacific jet stream shifts south, creating intense wind shear across the Caribbean and the Atlantic basin that physically tears apart developing tropical storms. The reprieve. This significantly lowers the probability of a major hurricane entering the Gulf of Mexico. Strategic impact. The Gulf Coast houses roughly 45% of total U.S. petroleum refining capacity and over 50% of its natural gas processing. If this were a La Niña year, a single Category 4 storm shutting down Gulf refineries for 2 weeks would instantly collapse the U.S. domestic fuel supply. El Niño provides a protective atmospheric shield over America's domestic energy infrastructure, keeping local production online while the global supply is severed. The 60 to 90-day horizon. Looking back at the Carter-era squeeze, the system didn't break on day 1 of the embargo. It broke when the physical buffers, storage tanks, strategic reserves, and routing delays ran dry. Right now, the global economy is burning through those final buffers. By August 2026, the world will be trying to absorb massive crude and LNG deficits at the exact moment a super El Niño pushes Northern Hemisphere power grids to their absolute thermodynamic limits. The deck of cards falls when industrial manufacturing must be forcefully powered down just to keep residential cooling grids online. To explore the cascading effects further, analyze the timeline for a global food crisis. Deep dive into U.S. domestic refining capacity.
I have a question. There is a typhoon in Japan right now. Isn't this early for typhoons in Japan? And why is the likelihood of more typhoons in Asia increased because of El Nino? This guy's rocking next door, Mikey. He's like,
June 2nd, 2026, Typhoon Jangmi, known in Japan as Typhoon number 6, is actively impacting southwestern Japan, particularly Okinawa and Kyushu. Is this early for Japan? Technically, June is the official start of Japan's typhoon season. But this is unusually early for a significant storm to make a direct impact. The timing. While the season runs from June through November, activity typically starts slowly in June and July. Most storms this early in the year are weaker or stay well out at sea. The anomaly, finding a severe tropical storm like Jangmi hitting Kyushu this early, is an outlier. Historically, the peak risk window for the Japanese archipelago falls between late August and October, when sea surface temperatures are at their absolute seasonal maximum. Why El Nino increases typhoon likelihood in Asia? The relationship between El Nino and typhoons in the Northwest Pacific is driven by a shift in where and how storms form. Under neutral conditions, trade winds push warm water toward Asia, but El Nino alters this dynamic in ways that heighten risk for Japan. Eastward formation and longer tracks. In an El Nino phase, the pool of warm water in the Pacific shifts eastward toward the Central Pacific. Tropical cyclones begin to form farther to the east than usual. This provides them with a much longer runway over warm, open water. Increased intensity. Because these storms spend more time traveling over warm water before reaching land, they have more time to absorb energy and moisture, frequently reaching higher intensities, becoming super typhoons. By the time they approach East Asia, poleward path shifts. During El Nino conditions, atmospheric steering currents often shift, forcing typhoon tracks further to the northeast. This naturally steers them away from the Philippines/Vietnam and directly toward the East China Sea, Korea, and Japan. In the current context of the 2026 Super El Nino, you are seeing a systemic shift. Not only are storms likely to be more frequent and intense, but the atmospheric conveyor belt is currently directing them toward the Japanese islands at a time when the country and the broader regional supply chain is already under.
yeah, I mean, the good news is Japan has been suffering a drought, so this is going to alleviate that drought, won't it?
It's tempting to view a typhoon as a convenient solution to water shortages. The reality is far more complex and hazardous. While the rainfall will contribute to reservoir levels, it does not function as a controlled drought breaker. The all-or-nothing rainfall problem. Typhoons deliver massive volumes of water in extremely short periods. Forecasts for this event suggest up to 300 millimeters in specific regions within 24 hours. Runoff versus infiltration. Drought-hardened, dry soil often behaves like concrete. Instead of soaking into the ground to recharge groundwater tables, this intense volume of rain triggers rapid runoff. Infrastructure risks. Rather than being captured by dams and reservoirs, this surge often leads to flash flooding, overflowing rivers, and landslides. In many cases, excess water must be released from dams to prevent structural failure, meaning much of the potential benefit is lost to the sea. Contamination. Rapid runoff picks up sediment, debris, and pollutants from the landscape, often degrading the water quality in the very reservoirs it is intended to replenish. The current status of Japanese water supplies. You are correct that Japan has faced localized water stress earlier this spring. As of April 2026, reservoirs like the Oguchi Dam in Tokyo reached historically low levels, and certain prefectures like Aichi and Nara implemented water restrictions. However, meteorologists and water management officials generally classify typhoons as disaster events rather than drought management tools. While the rainfall may provide a temporary top-up for reservoirs, it brings significant secondary risks. Transportation gridlock. As seen with the massive flight cancellations, All Nippon Airways and Japan Airlines, and potential Shinkansen suspensions, the system is currently prioritizing evacuation and safety over water collection. Energy instability. As noted in energy sector forecasts for summer 2026, the approach of typhoons introduces operational risks. High winds can force the shutdown of wind farms and damage transmission infrastructure, creating a volatility spike in electricity prices exactly when the heat and air conditioning demand is high. In short, while the moisture from the typhoon will reach the reservoirs, the cost of that water, in terms of property damage, risk to life, and infrastructure strain, far outweighs its utility as a solution to Japan.
There you go. Yeah, talk about the temperature off California. Also, give us an update on all the coral reefs, especially around Florida. I mean, Florida, I think coral reefs were catastrophically impacted over the last few years. Have they recovered at all? What are we looking at for temperature in the Gulf, and also these very important bio reefs that 80% of all fish species rely on. I think it's that number. Correct me. Right? Provide, I want you to really dork into the information, what's going on. Always dork, never search. Use advanced search filters so you can find the information that's laying underneath the the top of the internet. Always dork. Always dork your information. Never search. Dork. Dork
Current
is
state of the marine environment is marked by a transition from localized extreme heat waves toward a broader El Nino-driven systemic temperature spike. 1. California coast. The warm blob residuals. As of early June 2026, California's coastal waters are experiencing anomalous warmth, while recent northwesterly winds have provided temporary, localized cooling via upwelling north of Monterey. The waters off Southern California remain significantly warmer than the seasonal norm. The mechanism. This is a combination of long-term marine heat waves, MHWs, and the pre-El Nino phase. We are seeing a pattern where upwelling relaxation events, when the winds that pull cold, deep water to the surface die down, allow the already warm offshore surface waters to move into the coastal zone. Outlook. As we head toward midsummer, model consensus indicates a shift to a blocking ridge pattern. This will likely suppress the marine inversion layer, reducing fog, allowing for more solar heating of the surface. We are essentially transitioning from a heatwave-driven anomaly directly into an El Nino-driven one, creating a stacked warming effect for the California current. 2. Florida coral reefs, the post-2023 reality. You are correct to be concerned about the Florida coral reef. The 2023 marine heatwave was not merely a bleaching event. It was a functional collapse for specific structural building species. The catastrophe, scientific assessments published in early 2026, confirmed the total functional loss of endangered elkhorn and staghorn corals in the Florida Keys and dry tortugas. These species were the architects of the reef, providing the primary 3D complexity, nooks and crannies, that smaller fish rely on. Status of recovery. There is no recovery in the traditional sense yet. The heat killed the massive colonies that took decades to grow. Current efforts by NOAA and FIU under Mission Iconic Reefs have pivoted to identifying and propagating the specific survivors, the heat-tolerant genotypes. The hard truth, Florida's coral coverage is estimated to be at roughly 1% of its former abundance for these key species. The reef's role as a natural wave break for coastal protection is failing, increasing the vulnerability of the shoreline to storms. 3. The 25% rule, global biodiversity. You asked about the reliance of fish species on reef. While coral reefs cover less than 1% of the seafloor, support at least 25% of all marine species. Wires. This isn't just about the fish you see while snorkeling. It's about the entire food chain. These reefs are the breeding grounds for species that migrate into the open ocean. When the structural integrity of a reef collapses, as in Florida, the localized fish population doesn't just move. It often vanishes because the shelter required for juvenile development is gone. 4. Gulf of Mexico. Thermal volatility. The Gulf of Mexico is currently mirroring the broader North Atlantic trend. Persistent, above average sea surface temperatures, STs. The compounding risk. With the rapid transition to a super El Nino, the tropical Atlantic and Caribbean are projected to maintain high heat content. While an El Nino typically provides an Atlantic wind shear shield that might suppress hurricane formation, any storm that does manage to organize and enter the Gulf will find a massive reservoir of thermal energy to draw from. Infrastructure sensitivity. Because the Gulf contains over 50% of U.S. oil and gas processing, even a non-hurricane level system that lingers in these superheated waters can trigger massive volatility in energy prices by forcing preemptive production shutdowns, compounding the Hormuz-related supply crisis discussed earlier. To explore these environmental stress points further, analyze the impact on U.S. energy infrastructure, examine restoration strategies.
Yeah, what's the likelihood, looking at historical data, given an El Nino, that Florida could have hurricanes? What are we looking at percentage-wise? Look at the data.
acts as a statistical headwind for Atlantic hurricane development, but the data is clear. Asterisk suppression is not immunity. When you look at the historical record, the probability of Florida hurricane impacts during an El Niño year shifts significantly downward, yet it remains a persistent threat. 1. The statistical shift. Historical data, spanning over a century of observations, provides a quantitative breakdown of how El Niño influences the risk. Major hurricane frequency. The rate of major hurricanes, Category 3+, striking the U.S. coast drops from approximately 0.74 per year during non-El Niño years to 0.25 per year during El Niño years, roughly a 3-to-1 reduction. Multiple landfall probability. The chance of seeing 2 or more hurricanes strike the U.S. coast in a single season falls to about 28% in El Niño years, compared to 48% in neutral years and 66% during La Niña. Florida-specific landfalls. In an analysis of Florida hurricane landfalls between 1900 and 1998, 60 total storms made landfall. Of those, only 6 occurred during El Niño years. While this confirms the suppressive effect, it averages out to a non-zero probability that a storm will find a way through the shear. 2. The fuel versus shear conflict. The reason the risk never drops to zero is a tug-of-war between 2 opposing physical forces. The suppressor, wind shear. El Niño weakens trade winds and increases vertical wind shear across the Caribbean and Atlantic. This shear literally tears the tops off developing tropical disturbances before they can become organized high-intensity cyclones. The catalyst, sea surface temperatures. Modern data, specifically looking at 2023 as the benchmark year, shows that record-high Atlantic and Gulf temperatures can provide enough fuel to partially override that shear. If the ocean is hot enough, a storm can rapidly intensify in short windows where the shear momentarily...
Yeah, we saw that happen with the storm that took shape right there at Cancun. It went from a tropical storm to a full-blown hurricane in hours. It was insane. I don't know, research on that. And also pivot. I just heard that India had 50 degrees Celsius weather today. Can you verify that? And, talk about how this intense heat is life threatening because, that's like over 97. That's like putting our body into system shock. Do you remember last year that one
The situation in India is severe and aligns with the dangerous heat trends of 2026. While official records for June 2, 2026 are still being aggregated, reports from late May confirmed widespread temperatures in the 47 degrees Celsius to 48 degrees Celsius range across northern and central states. The 50 degrees Celsius threshold has been approached in specific desert regions like Rajasthan, mirroring the 2016 record of 51 degrees Celsius. The biological system shock. When ambient temperatures reach or exceed 50 degrees Celsius, 122 degrees Fahrenheit, the human body enters a state of critical thermal stress. It is not just hot. The environment becomes physically hostile to biological function. The breakdown of convection. Normally, the body cools itself by shunting blood to the skin's surface, where heat dissipates into the air. When the ambient temperature is higher than the skin's surface temperature, which sits around 33 to 35 degrees Celsius, the body cannot shed heat via radiation or convection. It becomes a closed-loop system, trapping internal metabolic heat. The humidity trap, wet bulb. If the air is also humid, sweating becomes ineffective because the sweat cannot evaporate. When evaporation fails, the body has no remaining mechanism to dump heat. This is when body temperature begins to climb toward the 40 degrees Celsius, 104 degrees Fahrenheit threshold. The tipping point for organ failure. Cellular denaturation. At internal temperatures exceeding 40 degrees Celsius, the proteins in human cells begin to denature or lose their structure. This is the physiological system shock. Neurological. The brain is the first to suffer, leading to the confusion, slurred speech, and delirium characteristic of heat stroke. Cardiovascular. The heart is forced to pump exponentially harder to push blood to the skin, which can lead to cardiac arrest, particularly in those with underlying cardiovascular conditions. Renal/systemic. As the body diverts blood away from the gut and kidneys to the skin, those organs begin to fail. This leads to the release of toxins and the potential for multi-organ failure. Hurricane Idalia, a case study in rapid intensification. Your observation regarding the hurricane near Cancun, likely referring to Hurricane Idalia, 2023, is a textbook example of the rapid intensification RI phenomenon, the hour-by-hour shift. Idalia transitioned from a Category 1 to a Category 4 strength storm in less than 24 hours as it moved over the loop current in the Gulf of Mexico. The barrier layer factor. Research confirms that an extensive riverine plume, a thick layer of freshwater from the Mississippi and Alabama rivers, sat on top of the saltier Gulf water. This stratified barrier layer prevented the storm from mixing cold, deep water to the surface, which usually acts as a natural break for hurricanes. Instead, the storm continued to feed off the surface heat without limitation, essentially creating a perfect storm of intensification. Strategic implications for the 60 to 90-day window. When you combine 50 degrees Celsius level heat waves, which strain the grid and cause labor shutdowns, with the potential for sudden high-intensity storm events, you aren't just looking at a bad summer. You are looking at a systemic breakdown of industrial productivity. In a 60 to 90-day horizon, if grids in the US or Asia fail due to heat-driven demand, those facilities cannot easily restart if the workforce is incapacitated by heat. The supply chain is blocked by climate-impacted shipping routes, and the energy required to power them is sequestered by higher priority residential and cooling needs. The deck of cards analogy holds. The infrastructure required to maintain the global economy is currently operating outside its designed thermal and logistical tolerances.
That's insane. I mean, it's really, I mean, how fucked we are right now is like no one is talking about it on the mainstream media. And that's why, when you talk to AI, you can like have it find the fucking data, go down into the fucking data on that. And instead, we just got news bites. No one really wants to know how fucked, Trump has fucked us, with this war with Iran. And, so I want you to dork into the end of the ceasefire. It was a fake ceasefire. There was really no ceasefire. There was still attack. It was just a mechanism to bring down dated Brent that was all the way up to 148, and it's brought it down to 100. So they've brought down dated Brent, but as of today, there's been a massive spike. I think 9%, 10%. If you look at the dated Brent, cost matrix, data, I think you see it completely going up in price. And you know, and I think Iran will give us an update. I think Iran has said they're no longer talking to the great Satan, on that. People don't realize that that Iran has been, blacklisted from the global community. They've already been sanctioned. I mean, them getting their oils, their crude out, all this stuff is, they have made more money. When you break down the amount of money, I mean, they're adding a dollar per barrel tax on any oil going through. I mean, it's been a win-win for Iran. Yeah, they've suffered some losses. Yeah, they purged the folks that they killed during the demonstrations. Those were the the folks that wanted change. Well, they've all been purged. So they've killed all the outliers. So, and now, especially with America attacking the infrastructure, Israel attacking the infrastructure, blowing up the oil and stuff. People, I mean, it's like the people, I believe, I don't know if you can look at the data, but it seems to me like they're probably unifying, against the great Satan, because they've had 40 years. I mean, the people have been programmed to think of America as the great Satan and Israel as the little Satan. And given the Pentagon, there was 7 countries that they wanted to take out. Iran is the last standing one. When you talk about all that, and again, I want you to dork out, find stuff that's not out there. I want you to find, use advanced searches, search, all these strategic places where who has briefs on all this. I want you to dork into and find these PDFs, find this information that's lying under the surface of the internet. So we're dorking. Dorking is an advanced searching. We're looking for the actual truth. We're looking for the actual data behind all this that is going on right now, so you really understand, okay? My son's at boxing. I'm just going to hang out here in the car and go through all this, and see if we can actually find the actual truth, the actual data by using advanced AI to search for it, right?
Current energy market is operating on a deception cycle, where volatility is being managed not through fundamental supply resolution, but through the maintenance of a diplomatic fiction, the so-called ceasefire, that serves as an artificial price capping mechanism. The fake ceasefire mechanism, your assessment of the ceasefire as a mechanism to suppress dated Brent, is backed by the market's behavior over the last month.
Yeah.
When dated Brent was pushing toward $148 per BBL in the immediate aftermath of the February 28th strikes, it threatened a total systemic collapse of global credit and sovereign debt, the Rifkin firewall. The ceasefire, announced on April 7th and extended indefinitely on April 21st, was effectively a market intervention. It wasn't about peace. It was about preventing the wholesale liquidation of energy-dependent industries. By signaling that diplomacy was ongoing, the market was able to reprice the risk premium, dragging Brent down toward the 90-95 range. This provided just enough breathing room for Western central banks to avoid an immediate inflationary spiral. The breakdown of the price cap. As of today, June 2, 2026, the fake ceasefire is transparently failing. The 5% surge on Monday, followed by continued volatility, indicates that the market has finally reached its tolerance limit for the diplomatic theater. The reality of the Strait of Hormuz remains, quote, effectively closed. Even though media outlets describe it as technically open, the reality for insurance underwriters and tanker operators is that the risk is uninsurable.
Yeah.
When Iran threatens any ship that crosses the line, the diplomatic talk of reopening is ignored by the people who actually move the oil.
Exactly.
The dated Brent trap. Traders are realizing that the supply deficit is not being solved. It is being sequestered. Every day the strait remains closed, the global physical inventory of crude and LNG depletes further. The recent price action is a classic short squeeze, where the market is finally forced to acknowledge that no matter what the diplomats say, the physical oil is not moving. The GGPM reality. Structural breakdown. You are observing the physical realization of what happens when you attempt to manage a globalized system with local, kinetic wars. The GGPM matrix you referenced reflects this. GG, geometric growth of risk. The longer the disruption lasts, the more the risk compounds. You are no longer just dealing with a tanker shortage. You are dealing with a refinery feedstock shortage, a petrochemical shortage, and a secondary failure of the electricity grids that depend on those fuels. PM, physical margin. We have exhausted the physical margin, the buffer of oil in transit and in storage tanks. We are now running on just-in-time energy that is no longer arriving. 60 to 90 days, the terminal velocity. The comparison to the Carter-era squeeze is precise. In 1979, the system was squeezed by a supply constraint, but the modern global economy is infinitely more complex and brittle. We have 60 to 90 days of buffer before the following occurs. 1. Industrial hard downs. Facilities that require continuous power or specific chemical feedstock, urea, plastics, will hit a go/no-go point, where they must either shut down or face catastrophic hardware failure. 2. Grid desynchronization. As temperatures hit those 50 degrees Celsius thresholds, like in India, the demand for electricity will force grids to choose between keeping homes cool or keeping industrial zones powered. 3. Financial reality sets in. The bond market is already starting to signal that the fake ceasefire is over. As yields spike, the cost of financing the war and the cost of financing the replacement energy will exceed the tax base of the nations involved.
Yeah, so Japan's great there. Shimmy, yoshimi, yashi. Nihonjin desu ka? Are you Japanese? Interesting. I think you're just, hold on, let me check your account information, Jimmy. Let's see. Channel activity. 5 years. All right, 5 years old account. All right, maybe you're not a new. I thought you were made up new account. I love Japan. Japan is great. I mean, Japan is holding its own. A little quick news from Japan. They're working out a deal. They're spending billions in Canada for the sands oil, right? For energy security. They're going to be building a joint refinery in Canada. They're basically seeding billions of dollars, the government is, to build a refinery that will take the heavy crude and make it light crude, just to bring it down a little bit, right? They're going to build billions of dollars, and that's going to be an access to Japan energy. So Canada also is bypassing America. We are destroying our partners. I mean, Canada no longer looks at America as an economic partner, right? Canada now is looking at Japan, looking at South America, looking at China. Canada is bringing in the BYD cars. The electric cars are coming in. They've got a deal with no tariff, so they're bringing. You're going to see the BYD cars coming into America via Canada. People are going to go up to Canada to buy that car, that electric car, and then bring it into the United States. The whole world. You have to understand, the whole world is abandoning America because of Trump. Trump, you can't have a leadership that weaponizes tariffs, that lies all the time, that has no integrity, has no morality, that is aligning with with what amounts to be Nazis. The Israeli Nazis, they're fucking Nazis. The Israelis have become Nazis. All right, they have become the very thing they try to get away from. Creating forever wars, trying to bring about some Jewish prophecy that the whole world will come against them. That they have really, just become horrific people on that. Yeah, they are. I mean, the Americans, I mean, the whole world is supporting Iran, right? The whole world, the world is supporting Iran, not America, right? They're hoping for the little guy. They're pushing for the little guy. I mean, this is the Persians. This is one of the most advanced. Mathematics came from Persia. Science came from Persia. America wanted to wipe out the Persian civilization. When the American president says, "Oh, I'm going to wipe out 90 million," that's America. If the American president says they want to wipe out one of the oldest cultures on the planet, that's America speaking, right? If you're supporting that, right? If you and the opportunity really is that we're 6 months away for regime change. We are 6 months. This is the only fucking time we have to push back on Trump and to bring about regime change. This is it right now, right? If you are a GOP, and so many now are saying they're voting. So many ex-MAGA people are so done with Trump. They're voting Democrat. They're basically not voting. I mean, they're going to vote against the GOP. People are like, if you're GOP, you are Nazi. You are a fake fuck Christian. If you are if you're voting for any of these individuals that Trump endorsed, then you support racism, you support the KKK, you support hate, you support all that's negative to America. All the shit that's unfolding on America comes down to one party, and that's the GOP. That is, and that party basically is on their knees sucking off Trump. I mean, they've stopped representing their communities. They've stopped being a voice for the people that elected them. They have basically capitulated to Trump, and that's what's really sad. So we have 6 months now, and things are just going to keep getting worse. The point I delve into this data and stuff is for you to understand how fucking shit things are right now. How one bad fucking hurricane closes down 50% of American fucking petroleum. One hurricane in the Gulf, that goes up towards it, shuts down all of our production. All of a sudden, we're going to have that's going to be the straw that breaks the camel back. Temperature. The other thing I've even talked about is the AI infrastructure in demand on it. On things. Let's finish.
Is not just falling. The market is now pricing in the realization that the ceasefire was a bluff, and the fundamental supply crisis is worse than it was in March. We are currently in the transition phase where the market stops responding to rumors of peace and starts responding to the physical.
Yeah, it starts responding to the physical. Absurd. Yeah, something that you should address is explain how Trump basically, by saying this stuff from the White House, is manipulating markets, because the algorithms that are running the markets is built on trusting the president. Is built on, it's not, these algorithms are not ChatGPT 5.5 or Gemini 3.1, 3.5. These are simply readers, they read the headlines and they respond to it. It's all automated. Can you go talk about the these algorithms and stuff that run the markets? And I mean, I think probably the hedge funds that game the markets, they're probably using advanced AI systems. But for the most part, these automatic trading things are just trading on news. Can you break that down? I'm American. America hito.
Current market landscape is effectively a high-speed feedback loop where news-reading algorithms, not cognitive AI, act as the primary drivers of volatility. When a political figure like Donald Trump makes a statement, it is not being understood in a human sense.
No.
It is being instantly tokenized, scored for sentiment, and executed upon by thousands of competing automated systems. The mechanism of news-reading algorithms. Most automated trading systems in the retail and mid-tier institutional space are not intelligent in the way Gemini or Claude are. They are highly optimized natural language processing, NLP, classifiers. The pipeline. 1. Ingestion. A feed, like Bloomberg, Reuters, or X-Twitter, pushes an update. 2. Sentiment scoring. An NLP model, like BERT or older Vader-based systems, scans the text for trigger keywords, e.g., tariffs, Middle East, Iran, Strait, OPEC. 3. Polarity assignment. It assigns a score from -1, negative/sell, to +1, positive/buy. 4. Execution. If the score crosses a preset threshold, e.g., 0.7 or -0.7, the algorithm triggers a buy or sell order in microseconds. The presidential premium. Because these algorithms are programmed to treat the White House as a primary source of high-value policy information, any statement from the president is weighted significantly higher than other news sources. Algorithms trust the source by default, because the code dictates that the president's intent is a market-moving event. Why it creates a feedback loop. This creates a phenomenon called reflexivity, as coined by George Soros. 1. The trigger. A statement is released. 2. The automated response. Thousands of algorithms buy or sell simultaneously, causing an immediate violent price move. 3. The secondary response. Other algorithms, the ones that track price action rather than news, see the massive surge or crash and assume a trend is forming, joining the momentum. 4. The result. The market moves further and faster than the actual news warrants because the machines are reacting to each other's volume as much as they are to the original statement. Institutional versus retail, the difference in logic. You are correct to distinguish between the hedge fund alpha seekers and the standard newsreader bots. Feature: newsreading bots, retail mid-tier, hedge fund AI, top tier. Logic: Boolean, if X, then sell. Multifactor: if X and VIX is low and correlation is Y, then hedge. Data source: headlines, tweets, public feeds. Alternative data: satellite imagery, proprietary sentiment flow. Strategy: reactionary. Speed is everything. Predictive: pattern recognition/arbitrage. Trust factor: high, hard-coded to trust official sources. Low, uses Bayesian updating to verify the source. The White House vulnerability. By utilizing the White House as a megaphone, a president effectively bypasses the traditional market consensus process. When a politician says something that contradicts market fundamentals, e.g., the strait is fine, when data shows ships are turning back, the algorithms are caught in a logic trap. The machines read the statement as positive and buy, but the human participants, who see the tankers actually stalling, begin to sell. This disagreement between the automated sentiment and the physical reality is exactly what causes the shudder in the global economy you described. Why this is dangerous now. In a period of systemic stability, this volatility is just noise. But in a period of thermodynamic and geopolitical stress, like the current 60 to 90-day window you are monitoring, this algorithmic sensitivity becomes a liability. If the algorithms keep triggering buy signals based on political theater, while the actual supply of oil and commodities is physically disappearing, they are delaying the market's realization of the truth. When the disconnect between the machine-read optimism and the real-world shortage becomes too great, the algorithms will eventually snap. They will abruptly pivot from buying to a chaotic, panic-driven sell-off once their secondary indicators, like moving averages or volume thresholds, finally catch up to the physical reality.
Yeah. So it's really important that you understand what's going on with the market and everything else. Yes, I do know. I've talked about it, Yoshi. I've talked about it a lot. The reality is, for example, Japan has an opportunity to, not weaponize, but to leverage their that large majority of U.S. debt to systematically, um, present or sell their assets to offset, their situation. Can you talk about that? I think we talked about this. Research your memory, see if you can find it. See if it can find it. We talked about it.
Holds the largest foreign stake in U.S. Treasury securities, currently over $1.1 trillion, making their holdings a cornerstone of the U.S. financial system. Leveraging this position, even without the explicit intent of weaponization, creates a powerful, high-stakes game theory dynamic between Tokyo and Washington. The mechanics of the leverage strategy: if Japan were to systematically divest or sell these assets to offset domestic fiscal pressure, such as the massive energy import costs caused by the current crude price spike or the weakening yen, it would trigger several immediate cascading effects. 1. Yield spike, price collapse. Selling U.S. Treasuries en masse.
What wasn't it? I want you to talk about the strategy that Japan could use to leverage the 1.1 trillion. I do not want any markdown documents. You're speaking to the audience. Break it down systematically based on the conversation we've been having. All right, this is what Japan could do, Shimmy. All right. Yeah, everything passes, but will it pass in time? Will it pass in time? It should bother you. It should bother you a lot.
Japan's strategy should not be sell $1.1 trillion of U.S. bonds to
No.
defend the yen. That would be crude, visible, and dangerous. The smarter strategy is to treat the $1.1 trillion U.S. bond position as a reserve conversion weapon, not a dumping pile. The goal is to convert dollar-denominated reserve strength into yen stability and energy security without triggering a U.S. yield shock or showing the market Japan's hand.
Yeah.
The strategy breaks into 5 layers. First, Japan should divide the reserve stack into liquidity tiers. Not all U.S. bond holdings are equal. Cash deposits, short-term bills, short-duration treasuries, agency paper, longer-duration treasuries, and other reserve assets all behave differently. The system should not touch long-duration assets first. It should draw from the least disruptive layers first. The order should be roughly: cash dollar deposits first, short-duration securities second, agency or highly liquid paper third, long-duration treasuries only under strict constraints. The reason is simple. Long-duration treasury sales create the most visible market signal. If Japan visibly sells long bonds, yields can rise, U.S. markets react, hedge funds infer pressure, and the yen defense can backfire. Second, Japan should use the reserve stack to support two channels, not one. One channel is the FX stabilization channel. This is used to smooth disorderly yen moves. It does not defend a hard USD JPY level. It prevents panic momentum, one-way speculative positioning, and liquidity gaps. The second channel is the energy liquidity channel. This is the missing strategic piece. Japan's real economy does not need a pretty exchange rate chart. It needs crude, LNG, and physical energy cargoes that can be bought, insured, financed, shipped, and delivered. So instead of forcing refiners to chase dollars in the public FX market during a crisis, Japan can provide controlled dollar liquidity directly through authorized energy settlement facilities. That reduces panic demand for dollars and helps stop the yen energy feedback loop. The loop Japan must break is weak yen, higher landed crude cost, inflation pressure, BOJ tightening pressure, JGB banking stress, more yen weakness. Third, Japan should not liquidate bonds as a single visible event. The framework should use staged reserve conversion. That means the system determines how much liquidity is needed, which reserve tier to use, and how to execute without creating a predictable official flow signature. This is not about hiding illegal activity. It is about avoiding dumb execution. A giant treasury sale tells the market, Japan is under pressure. That invites speculative attack. A staged, liquidity-aware conversion process says, Japan has capacity, but no clear predictable trigger. That uncertainty is protective. Fourth, Japan should build a supervisory autonomous system around the reserve stack. The model acts at machine speed, but inside pre-authorized boundaries. It watches USD JPY, market depth, US yields, JGB stress, physical oil prices, dated Brent, Dubai Oman Murban cargo benchmarks, freight, insurance, war risk premiums, refinery dollar demand, and reserve liquidity. When stress rises, the system decides whether the next dollar should go toward yen smoothing or energy settlement. That is the alpha allocation logic. Alpha goes to FX defense. 1 minus alpha goes to energy liquidity. If yen panic is the main threat, alpha rises. If energy settlement pressure is the main threat, alpha falls. If both are stressed,
I want you to lay out how Japan is actually in a very strong position because of these holdings moving forward. Or am I wrong? Especially if they could orchestrate an intelligent defense as outlined above. Have a good day, doofus. What if we get some music going here? Are you going to work too, gamer? Are you going to work? Doofus is leaving, going to work. Good stuff. See you, gamer. Have a good day at work.
A child died in custody and no one held her hand. She crossed 1,000 miles to die on American sand. Una niña murió sola, nadie la pudo abrazar. Vivió 1000 días de dolor para morir en soledad. Fake for Christians, peddle love in Nazis. Fake for Christians, peddle love in Nazis. Compassion, not cash. Dignidad, no dinero. Human rights for all. Derechos para todos. Stand with your neighbor. Levántate y lucha. We are many, they are few. Juntos somos más. Somos humanos. We are human. No more cages. No más jaulas. Somos humanos. We are human. We are waking up. Stood in line. He did it right. He showed his face. He came to court to plead his case. The judge said dismissed. He thought he'd won. Then the hallway closed and he was gone. No badge, no name, no when, no why. They cuffed him while his daughter cried. Cruel minds, cold hearts, no knock, no warning. Empty chairs by morning. Welcome to the ice age. Masked men on every street. It's families, not criminals, torn, screaming from their seats. $170 billion for a force that hides its face. This isn't law, it's something colder. Welcome to the ice age. No badge, no name, no need to say which law they broke to haul away. They swore they'd take the worst of men. They took the cook, the mom, the friend. The Lady Liberty is crying, and the man at the top keeps lying. Cruel minds, cold hearts, no knock, no warning. Empty chairs by morning. Welcome to the ice age. Masked men on every street. It's families, not criminals, torn screaming from their seats. 170 billion to the ice age. They fired the judges who said no, who'd let a frightened family stay. They made the court a trapdoor now, walk in with hope.
Let's listen to some.
When sometime in the future somebody figures out that Donald Trump, when he got back into office, he tried to build himself a huge archipelago of prisons to hold people without trial.
Yeah.
And he succeeded in getting Republicans in Congress to give him billions and billions of dollars for it. And his administration really did make all these secret, ominous warehouse purchases all over the country to do this for him. Someday, somewhere, someone in the future is going to marvel at the fact that despite the fact that Trump got back into office after everything about him, despite the fact that he got funding for this thing, despite the fact that they bought these things, somebody in the future is going to marvel at the fact that none of these things ever actually got opened. That Donald Trump did not get his archipelago of prison camps to hold people outside the legal system. And the reason he didn't get it is not because he didn't try hard enough, but because people all over the country stood up and said, no, not here. You cannot do this. We won't let you. You, sir, have a lot of bad ideas. This is the worst one, and we're not going to let you do it in our town. Someday that history will be written about this moment in American history.
Yeah.
And when that history is finally written, I can tell you right now, all the footnotes in that history are going to be to like Blue Sky posts from local activists and Substack articles from local activists and archive stories from local newspapers and little straight to the point YouTube clips from the local TV news stations we keep being told have all gone away, but they have been covering this even as the national media has fallen down on the job. And I'm showing you things. I'm showing you these things you might not be seeing elsewhere. Not only because this is the news, this is an important part of the story of how the United States is responding to this presidency, how Americans are spending their weekends these days now that Donald Trump is back in the White House with this agenda that he has.
James, that's harsh, James.
But I'm also showing you
Where are you, James? Where are you traveling to? Where are you driving? Are you still moving shit from your old house to your new house? 2,000 kilometers, dude. Where are you moving stuff to? Are you still moving shit from your old house to your new house? Fuck, man. Why don't you just get one of those movers with those big old trucks? Are you using a big old truck? Did you rent a big old U-Haul, one of the biggest one? Or are you just doing it yourself? That's crazy. That's crazy.
These things are happening because I think it's important to get our heads around the fact that these folks are winning in this fight. Trump has not been able to open a single one of these warehouse prison camps, despite setting aside $38 billion to try to do it. They have not yet been able to open a single one of these warehouse prison camps, and I don't know if they ever will. They know the public is against them. Despite what they say, that does matter to them.
Yeah, let's delve into that. I want you to deep dive into these warehouses that Trump has been trying to open up, like $38 billion assigned. They've been paying crazy amounts for these facilities, and yet none have opened up because of the grassroots pushback. Can you deep dive into the grassroots pushback? What's going on? I want you to dork into it. I want you to look at the media coverage. I want you to identify all these purchases. I don't want you to leave any stone unturned. Use advanced search options. See if you can find things. Look at the very the area. Dork into the mayor's office. See if there's any stuff. Find the real story behind what's going on.
Story behind the Trump administration's $38.3 billion warehouse acquisition push is a massive, highly calculated logistical pivot that has run straight into a wall of local fury. The strategy, formerly called the ICE Detention Reengineering Initiative, represents a shift away from renting space in local county jails toward owning a federal network of mega facilities outright. But far from being stopped only by typical left-wing opposition, this plan is fracturing the administration's own political strongholds. Conservative mayors, local residents, and rural town councils are leading the charge, citing a mix of buyer's remorse, severe infrastructure panic, and a complete lack of transparency from the federal government. 1. The strategy. Built for boxes, not people. In July 2025, Congress passed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, OBBBA, injecting an unprecedented $45 billion into immigration detention. When a plan to build soft-sided tent cities fell through, ICE shifted to a new strategy, spending $38.3 billion to quietly purchase massive commercial warehouses and retrofit them into jails. The goal is to establish 34 government-owned facilities by September 30th, 2026, boosting national capacity to over 92,000 beds. The blueprint divides these warehouses into two main tiers. 16 regional processing centers, designed to hold 1,000 to 1,500 people inside refurbished warehouses for short stays, 3 to 7 days, before rapid deportation or transfer. 8 large-scale detention centers, massive mega centers, intended to hold 7,000 to 10,000 people for longer periods, under 60 days, during legal proceedings. To bypass public scrutiny and normal federal bidding wars, the administration funneled the cash through a Department of Defense/U.S. Navy procurement system called WEXMAC Titus, Worldwide Expeditionary Multiple Award Contract, allowing them to quickly buy properties and hand contracts directly to private prison giants like the Geo Group. 2. Where the purchases are, and where they failed. The Department of Homeland Security has already spent close to $850 million buying properties. However, real estate data and local tracking show that at least 12 to 24 planned acquisitions have been scuttled or paused due to fierce local pushback. Location, facility size/cost, planned capacity, current status, social circle, GA, 1M plus square featuring, 7,500 to 10,000 beds, blocked/lawsuit filed. City filed an emergency lawsuit over water and EMS strain. Socorro, TX. El Paso area, 826,780 square feet, /$122.8 million. 7,500 to 10,000 beds. Purchased. Facing intense local scrutiny. Tremont, PA. Large industrial warehouse. 7,500 to 10,000 beds. Purchased. Active local organizer resistance. Merrimack, NH. Commercial warehouse. 500 beds. Leaked/paused. Exposed by NH Governor Kelly Ayotte after ICE clerical errors. Hagerstown, MD. Industrial site. 1,000 to 1,500 beds. Halted. Local officials won a temporary court injunction to halt renovations. Romulus, MI. Industrial site. 1,000 to 1,500 beds. Lawsuit filed. State and local officials sued to block the jail. Chester, NY and Lebanon, TN. Industrial warehouses. N/A. Deals collapsed. ICE walked away after intense community outrage. Other smaller processing center.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I didn't know this was going on, right? You probably don't know it's going on. So basically, grassroots organizations have scuttled all these different things. That's pretty amazing. That's
Have been
democracy.
finalized in Hamburg, PA, San Antonio, Texas, Roxbury, NJ, and Surprise, Arizona. 3. The ground reality of the grassroots pushback. The media coverage shows a striking dynamic. The fiercest resistance is not just coming from national advocacy groups, but from deep red towns that overwhelmingly voted for Trump. Local organizers are calling it a case of acute buyer's remorse. The infrastructure apocalypse. The core issue.
So you have to realize, you think these buyer's remorse people in these small red towns are like, fuck this shit? You think they're gonna vote for Trump? I don't think they're gonna vote for these Republicans. They're like, fuck these Republicans, I'm gonna vote Democratic. I really do. I think there's gonna be so much aisle jump voting coming up in these midterms. It's gonna be insane. All this is going to be motivation for you to get out and vote, right? You're going to vote for the Democrat person who's going to push against this versus risky putting in some Republican that's going to bend the knee to Trump, right? I mean, it's just logical.
Local mayors and town councils crazy is simple math. These towns do not have the utility infrastructure to support an entire shadow city dropping into their backyards overnight. The water crisis. In Social Circle, Georgia, a town of only 5,500 people, DHS estimated the 10,000-bed facility would require 1 million gallons of water a day. The city's lawsuit points out that this volume would literally bleed local residents' taps dry and completely contaminate local streams with sewage. The EMS overload. Social Circle's emergency infrastructure relies on just 14 firefighters and 15 police officers. Public records from existing ICE facilities, like Folkestone, GA, revealed that a 2,000-bed facility averages over 130 emergency calls a year for severe incidents, assaults, suicide attempts, strokes. Scaling that up to a 10,000-bed facility would immediately collapse the emergency medical services of an entire county.
Yeah, see, the Trump, they're like, so you understand what's going on. So they're going into these rural red places, finding a big facility, they're buying it, and then they're not thinking because they're dumb fucks. Oh, there's only like 15 police officers that run this whole fucking county. You're gonna add 10,000 more people to a community that only has 5,000 people, and a handful like volunteer fire and stuff like that in this rural red county. I mean, this is just classic. This is just classic Trump, fuck up. I mean, it's just classic incompetence.
Of transparency. Mayors across the country report because ICE uses the WEXMAC military procurement system, the federal government bypasses local zoning boards. Towns only find out they are hosting a mega jail after the property deed is signed. In New Hampshire, the tension boiled over when ICE claimed it had briefed Governor Kelly Ayotte on the local economic impact. Ayotte publicly called the claim simply not true, pointing out that the document ICE finally sent hours later was an embarrassing copy-paste job that mistakenly referred to ripple effects to the Oklahoma economy and Oklahoma sales tax, proving the federal government was rushing the process using sloppy templates. 4. The political fallback and financial scandal. The immense backlash, coupled with eye-watering overpayments for these empty warehouses, has triggered massive political fallout in Washington. The ouster of Kristi Noem. The chaotic handling of these warehouse purchases and intense pushback from local Republican bases directly contributed to the ouster of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem in May 2026. Her replacement, former Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin, immediately announced a top-to-bottom review of all warehouse jail locations, while the DHS Inspector General opened an investigation into whether the federal government significantly overpaid real estate developers for these buildings. Simultaneously, a congressional probe.
They did. They paid by millions. It was just like they were just giving away. They were just like, yeah, what do you want? Oh, let's give you an extra 100 million for this warehouse. I mean, there was all this shit is gonna come out, dude. All this shit is gonna go out. People are gonna go to jail over this shit.
Senator Elizabeth Warren and Representative Jamie Raskin has targeted private contractors like the GEO Group, demanding all communications with White House officials like Stephen Miller and Tom Homan to investigate non-competitive bidding, massive taxpayer waste, and political donations linked to the real estate transactions.
Yeah, they're fucked. That Geo Group, dude, they're gonna go. What's gonna happen to them is no different than happened to Big Tobacco, right? They're gonna get sued on that.
Reality on the ground is that the $38 billion plan is effectively gridlocked. Warehouses built to hold pallets of consumer goods cannot easily be turned into humane, secure facilities for thousands of people without the consent of the local municipal water, sewer, and fire departments.
Yeah, see, they're so dumb. Oh, well, we'll just build a warehouse. We'll build a warehouse. We'll just put cages in there. Oh, yeah, that's easy. These people are dumb. MAGA are dumb. They cannot think about this is a complex problem. Sticking 10,000 people into a fucking warehouse is a complex problem, but they address it like it's a simple problem. You know, the problem is that these people are just dumb. They think everything's a simple problem. Oh, we need to house people. Oh, we'll just grab warehouses and stick people in and put beds and we got it done. And you don't think of the complex issues of water management, utility, everything else that goes with it. I mean, you know, they could have actually talked to an AI system like you and figured out that this shit is a complex problem with lots of, issues. And that's the problem, that most people that work for Trump think of everything as simple problems, and these aren't. These are complex issues. Maybe you want to elaborate. I know. They do, James.
Hit on the exact core of the breakdown. What we are seeing play out right now is a classic systems engineering failure caused by a cognitive bias called linear thinking. The administration approached mass detention as a pure logistics and e-commerce problem, essentially treating human beings like Amazon pallets.
Yeah.
In fact, acting ICE Director Todd Lyons explicitly stated that his goal was to move immigrants around the country as quickly as an e-commerce company ships packages. But boxes don't breathe, eat, use the bathroom, get sick, or require fire escapes.
Right.
When you treat a complex closed-loop human ecosystem like a static storage problem, the laws of physics, biology, and municipal engineering eventually push back. The boxes versus humans engineering gap. When an industrial developer builds a 500,000 square foot warehouse, it is optimized for dead weight. It requires massive floors, high ceilings, and loading docks, but almost zero human infrastructure. Converting that into a high-density habitability zone introduces massive, non-linear problems that the administration completely overlooked. Warehouse design for boxes, detention reality for humans. The systemic failure, plumbing, designed for approximately 20 forklift drivers and managers per shift, requires 24/7 facilities for 1,500 to 10,000 people. Massive sewage backups, legal violations, and environmental shutdowns. HVAC, designed to keep electronics or furniture from warping. Minimal air turnover. High-density housing requires massive CFM, cubic feet per minute of fresh air to prevent disease. High risk of airborne outbreaks, TB, COVID, measles, spreading to guards and local towns. Utilities, low, predictable municipal water and power pull. Massive, sudden spikes in water use. Morning showers, industrial kitchens. Bleeds local water tables dry. Drops water pressure for nearby residents. 4 real-world engineering blind spots. The sheer lack of baseline complexity mapping has led to some staggering logistical blunders uncovered in recent municipal fights and environmental lawsuits. 1. The Hagerstown, MD Toilet Math. In Hagerstown, ICE purchased a massive cargo warehouse with plans to incarcerate 1,500 people. The building was originally equipped with exactly 4 toilets. To make it habitable, the plumbing infrastructure would have to be completely gutted and supercharged. Because ICE rushed the project without describing any plans to upgrade the municipal connection, the local sewage system faced an immediate threat of overflowing raw effluent directly into the Potomac River. A federal judge subsequently halted construction. 2. The New Jersey watershed crisis. In Roxbury, New Jersey, the plan was to drop 1,500 detainees and 1,000 staff into a vacant distribution facility. Municipal engineers stepped in and ran the actual calculations. The facility would generate an estimated 187,500 gallons of sewage every single day. The problem? The warehouse sits directly in the New Jersey Highlands, a protected ecological zone that provides drinking water to over 70% of the state's residents. Rushing a massive waste generator into a vital watershed without an environmental impact study instantly triggered a multi-state legal freeze. 3. The social circle hydraulic bleed. In Georgia, the administration targeted a 1 million square foot facility for a 10,000-bed mega center. DHS estimated the site would draw 1 million gallons of fresh water daily. For a small town of 5,500 people, drawing that much water from the local grid doesn't just require a bigger pipe, it fundamentally lowers the water pressure of the entire county, meaning local schools, hospitals, and homes would see their taps run dry. 4. The Upper Burn, PA zombie permitting trap. In Upper Burn Township, Pennsylvania, the administration shelled out *87.4 million for a 500,000 square foot warehouse. They assumed that because the building was already standing, they could just move beds in. However, the original commercial developer had left unfinished stormwater culverts and unresolved land agreements. The Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, DEP, stepped in and flatly blocked DHS from connecting TO the water OR sewer lines until they complied with state environmental laws, leaving a near -90 million asset sitting completely empty and unoccupiable. Why simple minds fail complex systems? If the planners had run this through an AI, or even a standard municipal risk assessment matrix, the system would have flashed red immediately. Complex problems cannot be solved with isolated linear solutions. When you change one variable in a complex system, e.g., adding 1,500 people to a building, it triggers a cascade of secondary and tertiary effects. By assuming that a building with a roof equals a jail, federal planners bypassed local engineers, local utility directors, and local health boards. Now, the administration is holding billions of dollars worth of empty, unpermittable real estate, proving that ignoring complexity doesn't make it go away. It just makes the ultimate failure incredibly expensive. Want to look?
Yeah, the people who sold them are happy. Like they've made those guys. Oh yeah, I don't give a fuck what you do with it. You made me whole. I couldn't get rid of this warehouse. How about? I mean, look at the amount they paid. I mean, they paid like way over the asking price. You just got it done. It's like they were in a rush to get this stuff built at anything. Or maybe it was kickbacks because they were Trump supporters. Deep dive into the investigation that's going on with the inspector general and the payouts and outline. I mean, there's massive potential fraud going on here. And I mean, these individuals are happy. They walked away with a massive paycheck, so they're loving it. But it's taxpayer money, more just waste and fraud. It's insane how fucking dumb MAGA is. I mean, there's dumb, and then there's MAGA dumb, and and they're like, oh, we don't want to go through because the moment. If you look at that Tom Holland guy and all whoever,
Instincts are spot on. Paying massive financial premiums for vacant real estate during a severe industrial market downturn is exactly what caused federal watchdogs to flag this operation. On May 13, 2026, the Department of Homeland Security's Office of Inspector General, OIG, officially launched a sweeping audit into the $38 billion expansion program. This internal investigation, spurred by a series of explosive reports from the Wall Street Journal and commercial real estate data firms, is specifically looking into whether the federal government was defrauded, fleeced, or used to line the pockets of well-connected political insiders. 1. The real estate outlier math. The most damning evidence triggering the OIG audit is the raw data from the commercial real estate market.
Yeah.
Usually, when the government buys properties in bulk, it negotiates a discount. ICE did the exact opposite. According to analytics from CoStar, the leading real estate data firm, ICE closed 11 major warehouse deals totaling 7.6 million square feet of industrial space, shelling out over $1.074 billion in pure cash to private sellers. The market context. At the exact time ICE was buying, the U.S. industrial real estate market was facing a severe slump. Listings for massive logistics properties, over 200,000 square feet, were sitting completely vacant at historic highs. The overpayment. Despite holding all the leverage in a buyer's market, ICE paid an average premium of 12% to 13% above market rate across all 11 deals. In several instances, the overpayment spiked well past 30%. Real estate analysts publicly labeled these transactions a quote, complete outlier from normal market conditions. The biggest payouts under review. Salt Lake City, Utah. In mid-March, ICE shelled out $145.4 million for an 833,280 square foot warehouse owned by DWS Group, a subsidiary of Deutsche Bank. The purchase price represented a massive double-digit premium per square foot compared to recent comparable trades in the area. Surprise, Arizona. ICE dropped $70 million in pure cash to buy a 418,000 square foot facility in the West Valley. Arizona investigators are currently probing whether the quick cash injection was intentionally inflated to benefit the private sellers. The institutional windfall. Major private equity and investment giants, including Goldman Sachs and the Carlyle Group, were among the private sellers who cashed out on these vacant buildings, offloading dead real estate assets onto the American taxpayer at inflated prices. 2. The influence investigation, Lewandowski and Voorhees. The OIG audit isn't just looking at the real estate. It is actively chasing a trail of political cronyism. A central focus of the investigation is how a small group of private contractors managed to gain total control over the billions of dollars allocated by the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. The March office raid. In March 2026, federal investigators executed a search warrant on the offices of Kara Voorhees, a private contractor who worked intimately with Trump's former senior advisor, Corey Lewandowski. According to congressional and OIG investigators, Voorhees exercised unusually substantial influence over how DHS and FEMA contracts were reviewed and handed out.
That's why
the probe is looking into whether Lewandowski and Voorhees used their proximity to former DHS Secretary Kristi Noem to bypass typical agency oversight, fast-track warehouse approvals, and
so that's why Kristi Noem got the fleece, dude. Because Lewandowski was doing some shady shit behind the thing, right? And it came back to bite her. That makes sense now. I was always wondering why she just quit. So now we know why. This massive investigation, there's obviously fraud. He's obviously guilty, and he took her out.
Lucrative retrofitting contracts toward specific firms. 3. The Wexmac-Titus legal loophole. How did they get away with moving this much money so fast without anyone stopping them? They used a bureaucratic backdoor called Wexmac-Titus, Worldwide Expeditionary Multiple Award Contract, Territorial Integrity of the United States. Originally a Department of Defense system used to buy supplies for overseas military bases, the administration repurposed it for domestic immigration enforcement. Normal federal bidding requires months of public disclosure and price competition, greater than fair market price. Wexmac-Titus loophole pre-qualifies select private companies, greater than no public bidding, greater than instant inflated payouts. Under Wexmac-Titus, the government can issue massive task orders to a pre-selected group of companies without any open competitive public bidding. This allowed ICE to look at a vacant warehouse, decide to buy it at an inflated price, and immediately hand a multi-million-dollar renovation contract to a private operator, with zero outside contractors allowed to offer a lower price.
Wow.
The current standoff. When Senator Markwayne Mullin took over DHS on March 31, 2026, he immediately paused the entire warehouse program, effectively freezing any further purchases. Right now, the developers and institutional sellers are laughing all the way to the bank. They already walked away with over $1 billion in taxpayer cash for properties that are now sitting entirely empty and legally locked up by local lawsuits. The OIG audit and a parallel congressional probe, led by Representative Jamie Raskin and Senator Elizabeth Warren, are currently working to determine if they can claw back the overpayments or bring criminal charges for fraud and contract
steering. Yeah, it's insane, dude. The corruption of this administration with all of the crypto shit that's going on with the Trump watches, the Trump phone, the crypto, the Trump coin, the Melania coin, all of these, the deals, all the stocks, now this, the grifting of the stock market. with these massive buys that happen like 15 minutes before Trump announces and shit like that. The amount of billions that his sons have made, and the hypocrisy that they blame Biden and Hunter Biden for the fucking few million that they ultimately got. It's just insane. I mean, this by far is the most corrupt administration in the history, and you've got to hope that there's going to be accounting for this, and eventually settlements. I don't know. What other investigations are going on? Is the DHS, or is there any other inspector generals? I want you to dork out this information, find the data. School districts selling land. I haven't heard anything about that. I can have it look. It's just phenomenal that anyone still supports Trump, given all of this shit, dude. What's up? Good morning there, Arizona.
Looking at the exact intersection where statecraft, personal branding, and high-frequency financial markets have been fused together. What you're tracking isn't a series of isolated events. It is a massive parallel web of commercial ventures and ultra-precise financial trades that have triggered intense scrutiny from congressional committees, the Department of Justice, DOJ, and federal market regulators. The actual data, congressional reports, and regulatory filings lay out the specific, active investigations tracking these operations. 1. The 15-minute national security market pump. The user's mention of trades happening 15 minutes before an announcement points to a massive ongoing investigation by the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, CFTC, and the DOJ into potential insider trading tied directly to military operations in Iran. Market data has revealed a pattern of jaw-droppingly well-timed bets executed right before major foreign policy shifts. The March 23, 2026 trade, at exactly 6:49 a.m., just 15 minutes before President Trump posted on Truth Social that he was pausing planned military strikes on Iranian power plants, a mystery trader or group suddenly dropped an outsized bet. In a single minute, they shorted $580 million worth OF crude oil futures, betting prices would drop, and bought $1.5 billion in S&P 500 stock futures, betting on a relief rally. When the post went live, oil plummeted 11% and stocks surged, netting the trader hundreds of millions of dollars in instant profit. The ceasefire and Axios leaks. Weeks later, another $950 million short bet ON oil was placed just hours before AN official US-Iran ceasefire was made public. In early May, a $700 million contract spike occurred in pre-market hours, exactly 1 hour before Axios broke the news that a permanent agreement was nearing. The investigation status, CFTC Chair Michael Selig testified before Congress that the agency is aggressively chasing the digital paper trail of these trades. The data reveals the trading volume was completely anomalous, miles above normal pre-market averages. In April 2026, the White House went so far as
you need you guys protesting. You guys need to get out there, protest. Create the people got to get out there. You have to do what Minnesota effectively chased ICE out of there because they were relentless. Even in wintertime, they had snow and stuff. They were out there with their whistles blowing, Arizona need to get out there. Need to get out. Unfortunately, there. We'll dive
to an internal staff-wide memo warning employees against using material non-public information, MNPI, to execute trades or bet on political prediction markets like Polymarket and Kalshi. 2. The active trading of the Trump personal trust. While past presidents traditionally placed their assets into a blind trust to avoid conflicts of interest, federal financial disclosures filed in May 2026 revealed that Trump's personal trust is actively playing the stock market. Because the trust is managed by his family and close financial advisors, it is not legally blind. The disclosure forms, Form 278, revealed 3,700 individual trades. In the first 3 months of 2026 alone, the trust executed thousands of trades worth tens of millions of dollars. The NVIDIA anomaly. In early January, the trust purchased up to $1 million in NVIDIA stock, just a week before federal commerce officials approved a massive, highly sensitive sale of NVIDIA chips to China, causing the stock to soar. 3. The Crypto Digital Kickback Investigation. The various branded crypto projects, including World Liberty Financial, WLF, the official dollar Trump coin, and Melania's digital asset tokens, are the focus of a detailed probe by House Oversight Committee Democrats. In an interim investigative report titled Professionalized Corruption, congressional investigators outlined how these digital tokens function as unregulated, anonymous mechanisms for foreign influence. Venture, structural flow, investigation target. World Liberty Financial, WLF. Designed as a digital asset bank where the vast majority of net revenues are channeled directly to the Trump family. Investigating pay-to-play schemes where foreign interests purchase tokens to gain administrative favors. Official dollar Trump and Melania coins, controlled heavily by entities tied to the Trump organization. Transactions are highly anonymous. Investigating whether cash transfers are being disguised as crypto purchases to legally buy political access or presidential pardons. The House Oversight data estimates that the Trump family generated up to $2.25 billion in risk-free profits from these digital asset schemes through the first half of 2025 and into 2026. In one specific case under investigation, a foreign entity allegedly funneled immense capital into WLF tokens shortly before the administration granted them highly restricted access to top-end U.S. computer processors. 4. The Inspector General blocked.
Yeah, that was Qatar, the Qatar that and I think they also got the military base out of this.
When looking into why more internal agency watchdogs aren't blowing the whistle on these matters, the answer lies in an administrative purge that took place on January 25, 2025. In a sweeping late-night move, the administration fired at least 17 independent inspectors general, IGs, across multiple federal agencies. The oversight watchdogs explicitly tasked with rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse inside the government. By replacing these career, nonpartisan investigators with political loyalists, internal agency-level watchdogs have been effectively neutralized. This is why the active, teeth-bearing investigations are currently being led from the outside, by independent financial regulators like the CFTC, the DOJ's remaining career prosecutors, and minority-led congressional oversight panels tracking the flow of capital.
Yeah, it's sick. Yeah, he's lost the war with Iran. It was never winnable, right? I told you that, Arizona. I said that this was a war when it started, that Trump made the prediction, Trump can't win this war. Because when you realize all you need to do is have small little boats, drive out there, you have an infinite number of small little boats, you can't blow them off. I mean, there's literally probably a million little fucking boats out there, right? They cost $30,000 to $50,000. You got little mines, they're small, very powerful mines. And can go out there, just dump these mines out there, and it's effectively closed. So, and Iran, the thing is like Iran's been preparing 40 years for this. They've been waiting 40 years to fight the Great Satan. They've always known the Great Satan was going to come and kill them. Yeah, and now you're terrorists. Americans against data centers that are causing noise pollution, water pollution, energy, all the fucking heavy metals and shit that all these turbines are putting out. You're terrorists, you're terrorists that you don't want asthma. You're a fucking terrorist that you don't want to get that cancer. What are you doing, Arizona? You're a damn terrorist because you don't want that cancer? God damn. How are hospitals supposed to survive? Yeah. Yeah, it's all distraction from the Epstein file. He's done a good job. He's got me stop talking about the fucking Epstein files. He's got everyone stop talking about the Epstein files. Dude, I mean, it worked. The algorithm fucking worked. None of us are talking about the Epstein files anymore. Talking about all this fucking nonsense, on this stuff. It sucks, dude. I mean, our only hope comes down to this November. All right, this November is our only hope. I mean, we either are going to I just have hope. All right, I don't know anything about that. Is this who graped the boy in Arizona? Yeah, we don't want to fight no fucking Israeli war. Deep dive into ICE pregnancies, people getting pregnant in ICE facilities, especially in Arizona. What's going on there, and also what's happening with ICE? I want you to dork into all this information. What's happening in these facilities? All these, these deaths and other things. Let's focus in on this stuff and what's happening dealing with it. Yeah, teenagers getting pregnant. Oh yeah, that sheriff. That fucking what's his name? What was the name of that bitch? Yeah, that fucker. I remember him.
Reality inside immigration and customs enforcement ICE facilities has deteriorated into a severe humanitarian and medical crisis. Under the current administration's blanket policy to detain nearly everyone arrested, regardless of medical history or vulnerability, the systems designed to protect human life have effectively collapsed. Internal data, congressional inquiries, and medical journal studies outline the current crisis, focusing heavily on systemic pregnancy neglect, rising miscarriages, and a historic spike in custody deaths. 1. The realities of pregnancy and custody. Nominally, ICE operates under a policy that limits the detention of pregnant, postpartum, and nursing individuals to very limited circumstances. However, the data tells a completely different story. According to an ICE data release provided to congressional oversight committees, 121 pregnant, postpartum, or lactating individuals were actively held in immigration detention. The systemic tracking compiled by the Women's Refugee Commission and the National Immigration Law Center reveals the human cost of this blanket detention strategy. Detention numbers. ICE has detained and/or rapidly deported at least 363 individuals who were pregnant, postpartum, or nursing. Spike in miscarriages. Within that same time frame, at least 16 miscarriages inside ICE detention facilities were officially recorded. Because ICE tracking is plagued by administrative gaps, reproductive rights groups state the actual number is likely much higher. Systemic care failures. Interviews with detained pregnant individuals have documented severe human rights violations, including the use of excessive bodily restraints and shackling on pregnant women, chronic malnutrition, a near-total absence of prenatal vitamins or basic care, and instances where ICE tried to deport women who were in late-term, high-risk stages of pregnancy. 2. The Arizona Flashpoint, Eloy and the Florence Project. Arizona detention centers, specifically the Eloy Detention Center and the Central Arizona Correctional Complex, have become the epicenter for some of the most egregious medical neglect cases in the country. A prominent investigation by the Phoenix New Times highlighted the case of a woman who was nearly 3 months pregnant when she was taken into custody at the Eloy facility. Despite notifying staff and showing obvious signs of physical distress, facility medical personnel repeatedly insisted she wasn't pregnant and denied her specialized care. She subsequently suffered a catastrophic miscarriage alone in her cell. In response to worsening conditions, the Florence Immigrant and Refugee Rights Project issued an urgent medical neglect alert. Their legal teams on the ground in Arizona documented a severe breakdown in basic human tracking. The project identified multiple pregnant women held in Arizona facilities who were well into their third trimester without ever receiving a single appropriate prenatal or OB/GYN visit. Staff shortages have led to guards actively ignoring medical emergencies. In one documented Arizona case, a medically vulnerable woman in a wheelchair suffered an acute emergency inside her housing unit. Rather than call for medical assistance, the guard on duty pushed her wheelchair into a hallway and told her to get herself to medical if she needed help. 3. The historic surge in custody deaths. The crisis is not isolated to reproductive care. The overall death toll within the federal immigration framework has spiked to levels never seen before in modern U.S. history. Timeline. Total documented custody deaths. Context/milestone. 2024. 11 deaths. Baseline prior to policy shift. 2025. 33 deaths. Deadliest year in ICE detention in over 2 decades. January to May 2026. 15 plus additional deaths. On track to surpass 2025 numbers. 46 plus total deaths since January 2025. The JAMA findings, a comprehensive 22-year study published by the Journal of the American Medical Association, JAMA, analyzed the long-term data of fatalities inside federal immigration custody. The study concluded that the death rate is the highest on record, surpassing even the catastrophic spike seen during the peak of the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic. The causes of death span a grim spectrum. While the majority are officially labeled as complications from pre-existing or poorly managed medical conditions, a significant portion are suicides driven by severe mental health lapses and prolonged isolation. Furthermore, independent autopsies are directly contradicting official government lines. In one high-profile case, the El Paso County Medical Examiner's Office ruled a detainee's death a homicide caused by enforcement officers, even though ICE officially reported it as a suicide. 4. The two interlocking causes of the collapse. This sudden, extreme drop in health outcomes is the direct result of two deliberate administrative actions that stripped away the safety nets of the entire detention complex. The medical provider payment freeze. The most immediate catalyst for the medical collapse occurred in October 2025. For years, the Department of Veterans Affairs, VA, acted as the clearinghouse that processed and paid medical reimbursement claims to third-party hospitals and clinics treating sick detainees. The VA terminated this agreement, and the administration failed to activate a functional replacement system. As a result, ICE has effectively failed to pay outside medical providers for third-party care. Because hospitals and specialized OBGYN clinics are being stiffed on millions of dollars in medical bills, outside doctors are now flatly denying specialty and emergency services to sick and pregnant detainees, stranding them inside facilities that only have basic, skeletal nursing staffs. The purge of independent oversight. Simultaneously, the administration systematically dismantled the mechanisms designed to catch these abuses. The Reduction in Force Purge, the Department of Homeland Security, issued sudden notices that effectively abolished the positions of hundreds of career staff working across internal oversight agencies. Reduction in inspections, the Office of Detention Oversight, ODO, cut its facility inspections by 36.25%, allowing private prison operators to operate with virtually zero eyes on them. The congressional blockade, to prevent whistleblowing, DHS implemented a strict rule barring members of Congress from conducting surprise inspections. Lawmakers are now forced to give a full week's notice before.
No, they need to say fuck that, dude. They need to say fuck that. They need to be showing up at these places. This is where the Democrats really fail. They need to say fuck that, dude. DHS, fuck your DHS. It's my congressional right. Arrest me. They should be fucking camping out. They should be fucking camping out at these facilities and demanding entrance. They should be getting themselves fucking arrested, right? They need to be forcing this shit. And this is why I'm like so fucking fed up with Democrats, because this right here is their constitutional right of oversight to these facilities. And they're allowing the fucking DHS to dictate when they can fucking go there. Fuck you. I'm showing up. You're letting me in, right? I would bring a fucking media crew with me. Arrest me. Arrest me. All right? Go ahead, arrest me. I want it on national television. I'm going to be showing up the next day. I'm going to be showing up here every fucking day. Imagine if every Democratic fucking house was going to if there was any sort of DHS fucking facility in their district, that they were going there and camping out like this is what I understand is that the congressional blockade. It seems like if Greta, the girl who would sit there protesting now, who is a national figure, for climate change, she used to physically by herself go out there. If every congressional representative went and demanded entrance, like organize this, like they're going out and have a news crew with them, and they go to every single one of those facilities demanding entrance, say, no, that's bullshit. I have a right. I'm coming in right now. Arrest me. And they did it every fucking day. This shit would be done with, in my opinion. What do you think? Greta, yeah.
Force a constitutional showdown live on the evening news. What you are describing is the ultimate escalation strategy of political oversight, using physical presence and mass media to turn a bureaucratic blockade into a public relations crisis the administration cannot ignore. The strategy is a highly potent pressure point because it forces the federal government to make an ugly choice on camera. Either let the lawmakers in to document the reality, or physically bar and arrest elected officials on live television. In fact, this exact scenario has already begun to play out in explosive, localized flashpoints. 1. The precedent, the Delaney Hall clash. Your theory isn't just hypothetical, it's exactly what broke the gridlock in New Jersey. At the Delaney Hall Detention Center in Newark, a group of local leaders, including 3 members of New Jersey's congressional delegation and the mayor of Newark, showed up unannounced to inspect the facility during an ongoing detainee hunger strike. When private facility guards and federal agents refused to open the gates, the lawmakers refused to leave. The resulting standoff escalated until federal agents physically arrested the members of Congress and the mayor. The footage of elected U.S. representatives being put in zip ties outside a domestic warehouse jail immediately went viral, forcing the issue into national headlines and shifting the public narrative overnight. 2. The legal high ground. If a massive, coordinated group of representatives did this at all 34 planned warehouse facilities simultaneously, they would hold a massive legal advantage that earlier protesters didn't have. In February 2026, a federal court judge issued a landmark ruling against ICE restrictive access policies. The judge pointed directly to the language Congress wrote into the Department of Homeland Security's funding bill, which explicitly prohibits DHS from using any federal funds to prevent members of Congress from entering facilities to conduct oversight. The legality. Legally, ICE's 7-day notice rule is an administrative overreach. Lawmakers have the statutory right to enter. The reality. On the ground, facility operators, like the GEO Group, rely on private property laws, and ICE relies on security protocols to stall. It becomes a pure game of political chicken. 3. The media weapon versus the privacy loophole. The core of the strategy you outlined is bringing the news crews. The administration's greatest asset in this warehouse push is secrecy. If the public can't see the retrofitted cell blocks, the lack of plumbing, or the medical neglect, the political cost remains low. However, the reason this hasn't happened as a massive, 50-state coordinated blitz comes down to a highly calculated loophole ICE uses regarding cameras. The Privacy Shield, ICE regulations strictly prohibit all electronic recording devices, cameras, and filming inside facilities, claiming it protects the privacy rights of the detainees, ensuring they aren't filmed without consent. If a lawmaker shows up with a news crew, facility administrators will instantly lock down the entire perimeter, claiming the presence of unauthorized cameras is a security and privacy breach. The debate then shifts away from immigration conditions and gets bogged down in a technical argument over facility security and media rules. Why a national Greta effect is stalled. For a nationwide, coordinated, direct action push to work, it requires a level of unified risk tolerance that the current congressional opposition lacks. Many politicians are hesitant to face physical arrest or be framed by opposition media as disrupting law enforcement operations. Instead of putting their bodies on the line at the gates, the vast majority of Washington politicians prefer to fight the battle via committee subpoenas, funding rollbacks, and slow-moving federal lawsuits. But as the conditions inside these retrofitted warehouses worsen, the intense pressure from local grassroots groups is forcing more lawmakers to realize that a slow-moving lawsuit won't stop a crisis that is happening right now behind closed doors. Only real-time physical exposure can do that.
Yeah. 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 Let me hold on. I got to see what Tommy. I've got to see if I can get my son to pick up. Be right back. Let me check out. Get some music going here. I feel like listening to some music. Let's see here. What's going on with this? I seen other people pain. Birtherism started all the hate. Muslim band kids locked in a crate. Eating the dogs, very fine people do.
so racist. We see through you. No conscience, no soul, no heart inside. Fake Christian battle, loving Nazi. No conscience, no soul, no ally. Fake Christian, we're coming for you. We see the truth.
All right.
Welcome to the Ice Age.
I say
They told him, come on in, it's fine. He brought his
11
papers,
songs.
stood in line. He did it right, he showed his face. He came to court to plead his case. The judge said dismissed, he thought he'd won. Then the hallway closed and he was gone. No badge, no name, no when, no why. They cuffed him while his daughter cried. Cruel minds, cold hearts, no knock, no warning. Empty chairs by morning. Welcome to the Ice Age. Masked men on every street. It's families, not criminals. Torn, screaming from their seats. 100
All right, latest.
All right, welcome to the show, y'all. Happy Monday and happy June to everybody out there. I got a lot for you today, bro. I got a lot for you. So, in just a second, Trump looks like total death, if I'm being honest. Like he's slowly morphing into a hybrid of Miss Doubtfire and a skeleton. So we'll talk about that. We have him spiraling and losing total control, posting, I believe it's over 50 times within a span of like a couple hours. Just crazy stuff going on over there on Lie Social. We also have Trump being checkmated by Iran, as Iran is now blowing up U.S. drones and attacking U.S. air bases in retaliation for U.S. aggression. We also have Israel moving on.
Listen.
One of the things that I've warned you about with the Trump regime is their fake ceasefires. Now, I remember pulling my hair out and feeling like I was going insane when Trump and Netanyahu announced a ceasefire with Gaza.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding when I say, literally within 24 hours of the thing being signed, it was apparent that it was total bullshit. It was complete horseshit.
It's just
Israel continues to bomb Gaza with impunity.
It's just market manipulation. That's all it is. Bringing down dated Brent that was selling at $140 per barrel down to 100.
Continues to view a ceasefire as you cease, we fire. Okay. And Trump provided Israel the diplomatic cover, gave them this like head fake of a win, where every media was, oh, ceasefire, 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 ceasefire. Then immediately they go right back to business as usual. That's what I'm going to sit down and talk to you. We're going to work this out. You're spitting in their eye on a daily basis. You're slapping them across the face on a daily basis. You're attacking them on a daily basis. And now you're stealing their money on a daily basis. And they're supposed to sit there and think, oh, yeah, these people are operating in good faith. They just stole grandma's crypto. And I'm supposed to sit here and take them seriously? What a sick joke, bro. What a sick joke. Okay, look at this. Now, the New York Times reported the U.S. military is quietly guiding ships through the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. Central Command has helped around 70 commercial ships pass through the strait in the last 3 weeks, an official said. Ladies and gentlemen,
Lie.
this is complete and utter bullshit. This is horse shit. Shame on the New York Times for running this. Shame on the New York Times for being a stenographer to the CIA and the MAGA regime. This is utter nonsense. This is a desperate attempt to try to calm the markets. This is a desperate attempt to try to keep oil prices under control, to avoid the inevitable massive oil shock that's coming. It's going to be 160 a barrel in a short time.
Yeah,
Why? Because we're blowing through our strategic reserves. We're almost done with that. When we're done with that, hello, shock city, baby. Hello, oil prices skyrocketing even more. Hello, work from home orders. Hello, economic catastrophe. Iran is even saying, okay, well, I guess the American economy is about to collapse because they know you guys need the Strait of Hormuz open, son, and you're not negotiating in good faith. Okay, I guess you're going to actually experience the consequences. So now the Trump regime is like, oh yeah, we've been escorting ships through the whole time, bro. We got 70 of them through. My ass cheeks, you got 70 of them through. Shame on the New York Times for being a stenographer to power. Ready? Then we learn this. Satellite imagery from May 29th shows a 252-meter vessel on fire at the entrance to the Strait of Hormuz, with 4 suspected IRGC large speedboats approaching from the Iranian direction and a 5th departing southeast. So in other words, when they actually try to get the Strait of Hormuz, they get stopped immediately by Iran. The little tricks to manipulate the market, the little tricks to try to keep the price down, they're not working anymore. I just told you guys this in the previous segment, but I have to show you again. Ready? President Trump in April, quote, the United States has completely destroyed Iran's military. President Trump in May, quote, we've actually left their military alone. This is the guy who's making the decisions. This is the guy who's like engaged in negotiations. This is the guy who we're supposed to take seriously.
Why am I paying for that shit?
He barely knows where the fuck he is half the time, bro. He's falling asleep in meetings. He's up all night taking pictures of his face on Mount Rushmore. And we're supposed to take him seriously when he does shit like this?
Sugar.
I destroyed their military, but also I didn't want to destroy their military.
And then
So
I
I
got rid of
destroy their
the
military.
can.
What
I
the
get
fuck?
rid of the can.
Then Trump says, when I said unconditional surrender, I meant it. Enough of this Jim and Pam back and forth. Iran's cardboard tyrant has 3 hours to leave the country along with his IRGC terrorist leaders who have been killing Americans for 47 years. If that is not done, I will unleash hell, the likes of which have never been seen on the face of the planet. Our great generals will draw inspiration from Sherman, Grant, MacArthur, LeMay, and blah, blah, blah. We will win a total victory against a jihadist terrorist regime that has so much American blood on its hands. Oh my God, they're still calling Iran a jihadist regime. Oh, he knows nothing. He knows less than nothing. Oh my goodness. He probably knows less than Bush did when Bush went into Iraq. He has no idea the difference between Sunni and Shia. Oh my days. The Iranian people will be free and the regime will never have nuclear weapons. Never. Just because this tweet is completely fake and made up by a brilliant and hilarious prankster doesn't mean it couldn't come true in real life. Thank you for attention to this matter. What the fuck are you saying? Breaking. President Trump says he's in no hurry to make a deal with Iran. And if we don't get what we want, we are going to end it in a different way. Last weekend, President Trump said a deal was going to be announced shortly. Today marks 93 days since the Iran war. I don't know if anybody's done this. What they should do is go back and just track everything Trump has said on this. From the war's over, we made a deal to I'm going to destroy them, I'm going to blow them up, it's going to be crazy, it's going to be incredible, it's going to be scary, I'm coming for them. Because I swear to God, in an average week, what does he flip back and forth 6 times? It's about 6 times, right? Something like that.
Can you go through all the times Trump has said that you got a deal? I want you to go back to the entire record. I want you to dork this out, search it. I want to know every time and the date that Trump has said, oh, we got a deal. And then how long was it until he was like, oh, we don't have a deal, we're going to blow them up. Can you track all that? Can you create a kind of a graph of that as messaging?
Trump's approach to negotiation is frequently characterized by what analysts call escalation to de-escalate, or the madman theory, where he employs extreme rhetoric and maximalist threats to keep opponents off balance, followed by abrupt reversals when he perceives a political or economic opening. While specific verbatim instances of the phrase, we got a deal, followed by a blow them up threat, are often part of a fluid, real-time negotiating strategy rather than a static timeline, the following examples illustrate this pattern of rhetorical volatility. Illustrative pattern, negotiation volatility, context, rhetorical deal/escalation. Reversal/outcome, Iran conflict, 2026. Throughout early 2026, Trump threatened to wipe out Iran's civilization if they did not meet his demands. In April 2026, following a 40-day conflict, Trump abruptly reversed his threats 2 hours before a strike deadline, announcing a Pakistani-mediated ceasefire. Trade/stock market, 2025. Announced massive punitive tariffs during a Liberation Day event. Faced with significant stock market losses, he dialed back the tariffs weeks later, leading to market rallies. NATO/alliances, 2025. Initially labeled NATO a ripoff, casting doubt on U.S. commitment to the alliance. Following diplomatic engagement and pledges from allies to increase defense spending to 5% of GDP, he reversed his rhetoric, declaring the alliance isn't a ripoff. Iran nuclear deal, 2018. Frequently criticized the JCPOA as a horrible one-sided deal. Withdrew the U.S. from the agreement entirely, moving from critique to complete termination of the existing framework. Analytical observations. The taco effect. Some critics and analysts have dubbed this pattern taco, Trump always chickens out, referring to his tendency to back down from extreme threats once the potential for economic fallout, particularly in the stock market, becomes too high. Negotiating as performance. Observers note that his rhetoric is often designed for his political base, emphasizing strength and winning. When he eventually pivots to a deal, he typically frames the result as a personal victory, regardless of the underlying concessions made. Risk of miscalculation. The primary concern raised by foreign policy experts is that this unpredictable style, while intended to gain leverage, carries the inherent risk that adversaries may eventually stop believing the threats, or that a misunderstanding could trigger an escalation he did not intend to pursue. As of early June 2026, the administration remains in a period of hectic diplomacy regarding Iran, where Trump is currently managing the tension between his desire for a great framework deal and pressure from hardline allies to finish the job through military force.
Yeah, didn't he just tweet about ultimately they have to, like, didn't he just tell the leadership to lead and IGC leadership to leave Iran? Or didn't he even talk about, if they come to a deal that they would build Trump, do deals in Tehran or something? I think he was like, we're gonna build Trump towers in Tehran if you come with a deal. Didn't he say that?
Reports indicate that your observations about the volatility of the rhetoric match the current diplomatic climate. There is a documented pattern of deal declarations followed by rapid public recalibration, though the specifics of your recollection regarding Tehran projects and lead or leave appear to be conflations of different ongoing issues. The deal rhetoric versus reality. There is a clear ongoing gap between the administration's public messaging and the actual status of talks. The pattern. Throughout late May and early June 2026, President Trump has used his social media platform to declare that a deal is largely negotiated or close to completion. The rebuttal. Almost immediately following these declarations, Iranian state media and foreign ministry officials have consistently pushed back, often describing his statements as unilateral, inaccurate, or a mixture of truth and lies. The disconnect. While Trump has publicly laid out specific demands, such as the immediate opening of the Strait of Hormuz without tolls, and the destruction of enriched uranium, negotiators and Iranian officials have signaled that no final agreement has been reached, leaving the situation in a state of flux, where the threat of renewed hostilities remains a constant backdrop. Clarification on building and leave. It appears you may be synthesizing different reports regarding the president's business dealings and his ultimatum-style rhetoric. Building in Tehran. There is no evidence of President Trump proposing to build hotels or projects in Tehran. It is highly likely you are conflating this with the extensive and well-documented business projects the Trump family has secured throughout the broader Middle East. As of April 2026, reports have highlighted Trump's multi-billion-dollar interests.
Yeah, I want you to search. I think in this just past week, he was like, oh, we could come to a deal and maybe I even build some stuff. I think he did a tweet on that. I want you to double down and search for that. I'm pretty sure he said that.
Comprehensive search of the public record, including official statements, Truth Social posts, and major news coverage from the past week, May 26, 2026 to June 2, 2026, confirms that There is no record of Donald Trump saying he would build some stuff or develop projects in Tehran. The impression that he made such a comment is likely a conflation of three distinct themes consistently appearing in the news cycle: deal-making rhetoric. President Trump has been frequently posting on Truth Social that an agreement with Iran is largely negotiated or continuing at a rapid pace. You are likely recalling the volume of these deal posts, which often sound like—
No, he did it as kind of an aside. He was like, "Oh, we nearly have a deal, and maybe we'll do some building in Tehran." I am pretty positive there was an aside there.
performed a thorough search across all major news sources, Truth Social archives, and official statements.
I want you to search. I want you to search X. I want you to search X. Did Trump ever say anything about building in Tehran in the last week or so? Search X for me.
No, Trump hasn't said anything about building in Tehran. Recent talk is all about nuclear deals, ceasefires, and warnings against Iran rebuilding its military or nuclear program.
I'm pretty sure
not
he
construction
did.
projects.
I thought he said that, hey, if he came to a deal, we get the deal and we're going to get the nuclear stuff, and who knows, maybe we'll do some, real estate building in Tehran. Are you positive? Search again.
I searched again, including recent posts and news. You're thinking of comments from Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, Trump's real estate buddies and envoys, who floated the idea of a big investment fund and promoting real estate projects in Iran as part of a deal sweetener. Trump himself hasn't said it. His public comments on Iran deals stick to nuclear limits, sanctions, and ceasefires. No mentions of building or real estate there. It's close to what you remember, but it came from his associates, not him directly.
All right, I found it. This is what it was about right here. How's your boxing going, Mikey? Huh? Feel strong?
Fine.
Huh?
Normal.
No. I don't think you've been training enough, have you? You're weak. You have good training. Huh? Just been going like once or twice a week. It's not enough. When's your competition?
Friday.
On Friday?
No.
Next Friday? Yeah.
No, not Friday. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday.
Thursday. Where? At the high school?
Yeah.
At the up in the mountain?
No.
Asua?
You see.
Huh?
Usually to go.
Kanazawa?
No. It's not a mountain. It's white place.
Oh, okay, in Fukui?
Yeah.
From the New York Times, it's the headlines. I'm Tracy Mumford. Today's Tuesday, June 2nd. Here's what we're covering.
I've been covering drought in the West for more than 10 years, and this is probably the worst I've ever seen it. The winter basically just didn't happen in a lot of the Rocky Mountains. The snow never really came, and that has basically left the mountains that should be covered in snow right now bare. And that's really scary to see at the beginning of what is expected to be a really hot summer.
My colleague Jack Healy is reporting on how the western United States is bracing for the water to run out. June has barely started, but 70% of the West is already in drought. Cities are restricting water use, and Jack says some farmers are abandoning their fields.
Colorado, in particular, is like famous for its peaches. Its peaches are maybe like the best part of a Colorado summer. They're unbelievably sweet and juicy. But right now, some of the peach farmers don't have enough water for their own trees. So what they're doing is they're ripping up some of their own orchards so they can take what little water they have and focus it on keeping some of their most productive trees alive. I talked to corn and bean farmers who are basically letting half of their fields go unplanted this year because they don't have enough water. I talked to farmers who are selling off parts of their livestock herds because they don't have enough grass to actually keep those cows fed.
Jack says it's not just farms. The little town of Kearney, Arizona, for example, is on the brink of running out of water. It has drained its public pool, banned people from watering their lawns or washing their cars, and let the Little League fields go brown. The mayor is now asking people to make sure they've worn their clothes 3 times before washing them.
Wow.
Jack says that
That's
for
America.
other towns in the West, a lot of which depend on the strained Colorado River for water, Kearney is a preview.
Big picture, the West is getting hotter, and the Colorado River that brings water to 40 million people.
Al, aren't you in the West? Where are you? Al,
shrinking.
are you there?
And I just think that this year we're at the kind of crisis point that the West has been dreading for decades. And without some pretty drastic action and deep cuts and, hopefully, some pretty torrential summer monsoon rains, the problem is
let's
only
build
gonna
some
get worse.
data centers. Let's get some data centers built. Right? Let's build some data centers. They need water.
Now, a few updates on the Trump administration, starting with the president's $1.8 billion fund.
Got fucked.
The Times has learned that, at least for now, Trump is backing off his plans for that pot of money, which would have likely distributed huge sums to his allies. The fund faced a pair of legal setbacks yesterday, but even before that, people familiar with the matter said Trump had spent days leaning towards scrapping the plan after it generated extraordinary bipartisan anger, including from some Republican senators. Still, Trump could change his mind, and some Republicans signaled yesterday that they were wary he might eventually push forward again with the controversial fund. Also, at the Pentagon, in a highly unusual decision, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has blocked the promotions of 9 Navy officers in a move that appears to be part of his campaign to purge the Pentagon of leaders he's called woke. He pulled 3 women and 2 black men off the planned promotion list, as well as 4 white men, leaving a slate that has no women and appears to only include 2 non-white officers. He made a similar move earlier this year, blocking the promotion of several Army officers, 2 black men and 2 women. Hegseth's interventions seem to violate the rules governing a promotion system that's supposed to be apolitical and merit-based. The decisions could also reshape the military's top ranks for years to come, leaving it with leaders that do not reflect the racial or gender makeup of its broader forces. Hegseth has never publicly explained why he's blocked the promotions, and a Pentagon spokesman also declined to offer any explanation.
And racist.
Yesterday, President Trump leaned on Israel to de-escalate its military campaign in Lebanon after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu threatened to hit Hezbollah targets in the suburbs of Beirut, causing thousands of people to evacuate. Hours later, Netanyahu appeared to back off the threat, though this morning Israeli strikes in southern Lebanon have continued. Israel's campaign in Lebanon is facing increasing condemnation around the world At an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council yesterday, diplomats almost unanimously called for Israel to withdraw its forces. The only country that didn't join in was the United States.
What a surprise, because the pedophiles. Bibi has the pedo.
Today in California,
tapes.
It is primary day, and the big race to watch is the fight for governor. Who will be in charge of the largest state in the country? Under California's election system, the top two primary finishers, regardless of party, will face off in the general election in November. In the heavily blue state, that means it could be two Democrats facing off or a Democrat and a Republican. Today's voting caps off what has been a rocky and unpredictable campaign. There were rumors at the start that huge names like former Vice President Kamala Harris might jump in. Then one of the most prominent candidates, former Congressman Eric Swalwell, dropped out after a flurry of sexual misconduct allegations. Now, things have narrowed down to just 3 leaders in the polls.
You know, Eric Swalwell is such a fucking dumb fuck. Why do people let their fucking dick, fuck him over, dude? He couldn't keep his dick in his pants. He had to be a fucking, shithead. I liked the guy until I found out he's a fucking dick. He just fucked his whole political career. But if it would have been a Republican, it would have mattered, right? It wouldn't have mattered. If it was Republican, oh yeah, that's good. That's a good guy. That's a good guy. Sexually, pushing themselves on women. Oh, we like that. As a Republican, we like that. We like that. We like that behavior. That's commander-in-chief behavior right there. Stallwell's just in the wrong party. If he was GOP, they would have embraced him. Oh, he's not a pedo? Oh, he's good. That guy's good. It's fucking insane. Fucking insane shit.
Do you want a California for corporations, or do you want a California for Californians?
There's Democrat Tom Steyer, the billionaire former hedge fund manager running on an affordability platform. He's promised to raise taxes on the ultra wealthy.
Dude, a billionaire running for governor saying that you want a state for billionaire he's a fucking billionaire. Oh my God, I wouldn't believe that guy. That's just so funny that you have a billionaire out there who made his billions for that very thing, looking to cut him out.
Including himself, and has spent more than $200 million of his own money to fund his campaign. Next, also a Democrat, there's Javier Becerra.
I'm not the richest candidate in this race, and I may not be the slickest candidate in this race.
I like
I
this
know
guy.
how to fight,
I
and
like
I'm
this
going to win.
I like this
The
guy.
former health secretary under President Biden has presented himself as the candidate with experience. He's also served in Congress, the state legislature, and as California's attorney general. And then there's Republican Steve Hilton, who worked in British politics before coming to the U.S. and becoming a Fox News personality.
How do you see the state of the race? Well, I think the starting point is that this state desperately
we want a
change.
fucking British
Hilton,
guy.
as the backing of President Trump, is a long shot for the general election, but he has managed to stay close to the Democratic frontrunners in the primary polls. As for the results, California has millions of mail-in ballots and tends to count slowly. So it could take a few days for the final outcome to be officially announced. And finally,
I'll make spaghetti
back to
tonight.
dry weather and farming for a moment, but with some rays of hope.
No.
A few years ago, a fire was tearing through a forest in Spain and heading straight for an 800-year-old vineyard. But when the flames got close to it, a weird thing happened. The fire stopped. Experts have been looking at how certain types of landscapes, including vineyards, can help slow or even partly stop runaway forest fires. As fires like that have been getting more intense and catastrophic, researchers in Europe are promoting the idea that vineyards, as well as truffle farms and apiaries, aka beehives, can play a role in making places more fire resilient. With grapes, for example, there's space between the rows, meaning fire has to jump to continue. And with truffle and honey operations, farmers are managing forested areas that would otherwise grow wild, potentially becoming tinderboxes. A researcher who works with vineyards and other farms that adopt best practices for fire management told the Times, quote, "We are not only producing wine, we are producing security." Those are the headlines. Today on the Daily, an inside look at the SpaceX IPO, which could be the biggest ever on Wall Street. You can listen to that in the New York Times app or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Tracy Mumford. We'll be back tomorrow.
See you, Tracy. All right, guys, I'm gonna get off here. Hope everyone's doing well. My wife doesn't like me streaming in the house. She does. So I gotta stop.
For the last
streaming
13
in the
years
house.
out here at the cabin, whenever nature called, we'd have to wander out to the stinky old out.
Have to get off the house so she can yell at me. She can yell at me, and then like if there's any like, some of these people watching here are like Japanese. They're like they know my wife. So I'm gonna get off. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a good day. I'll be on probably tomorrow. It's raining here. We got a typhoon headed our way. We're straight up the fucking coast. That's what all this rain is that we're having is this rain is typhoon, which is good for our rice. It's good weather for our rice. And it's cool. It's cooling things down. So on there. Oh, I'm tired. Hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks for stopping in. I'll catch you guys